Hey, what's poppin', everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Mir Musk, episode 40, the Hello Mark Harley interview. And
Thank you.
Mr. Harley, it is an honor to have you back on, sir, since our epic introduction with you with Crip Mac. It's just an honor to have you, sir.
And I thought we were actually live talking about that before. I didn't realize it wasn't
No.
recapping and having a laugh about how fucking entertaining that was and surreal for me as somebody who'd seen this guy online and just thinks that he's an incredible character, and that, you know, I've texted with him since then, and it's just funny. I'm like, I can't believe I have Crip Mac's phone number. I'm like,
Exactly, yeah.
he hits me up randomly. But it was a blast, man. Thanks for having me on again.
That's the thing. He was like it was a great combination of characters with you and him, and we initially wanted to get into more. We've been a fan of yours for a long time, and then we've viewed Crip Mac from afar too, and of course loved his character.
Yeah.
And a lot's happened in the last 6 months, so it's an honor for you to come on here, and we can kind of cover just more you and like your what you're doing now and what's transpired since then. And
yeah. Ask whatever you want. And again, I try to make a policy of, like, you know, when people have me on, if I think they're going to try to do something weird with me, I'll say no. But other than that, like, I don't like, I don't need to be like, don't ask me this or don't ask me that.
Just imagine we're at a dive bar and we're just hanging out.
Exactly.
And that was the thing. Like, I kind of hit you up because we've stayed in touch a little bit, and then I was like, dude, we were like, oh, dude, you know who would be a good character? I was thinking Sorgon Bird. And
Oh,
like,
yeah.
So I was like, dude, how can I get a hold of that dude? But then, and Mir's been trying to get a hold of him. But then I was like, dude, we got to have you on and do a full interview, because you got a varied, you're a Hollywood dude in a sense. You're a huge on Instagram.
You have an IDDM or whatever it is.
IMDb. Yeah.
Yeah, I do have actual acting credits. And somebody actually just stopped me. They're like, oh, I saw you in the Hungover Games, which is like this.
You know, you were in that shit?
Yeah, I played Gay Thor. That was the first.
That was you, bro.
Yeah. You know, like, so they put this blonde wig on me, and I just got to deliver like gay zingers, you know, like, you've just been north. You know, who wants to get margaritas? And so but it was cool because that was my first real like paid movie role, like, you know, made a few $1,000 at the time, and like I really needed it, you know, like whenever 2013, I'm like, that came just at the right time, man. I was broke as fuck. And then since then, I remember adding up my residuals. I'm like, damn, I made like, you know, almost like 20 G's off of it total. This is kind of funny, like, because I just I'm like, I'm still getting residual checks from the Hungover Games. And it was just a really fun experience and very validating because, like, as my first role, and then like Jamie Kennedy, like I saw him in the makeup room, and he was like, oh, I saw your audition tape. You were so funny, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, you know, just because it is true. Like, people are always going to hate, like, my whole haters will say thing is that it's like a satire of somebody who's obsessed with haters. But I do always say that, like, when one person gives you validation, you're like, you don't realize, like, Jamie Kennedy told me I was funny. So like, fuck another 100 people saying I suck. Like, this guy said I was cool, you know? And I like to, it's like, not like you don't have to listen to anybody. It's like, if everybody's always telling you that you suck at something all the time, maybe that's a sign. But like,
yeah, maybe it's about you.
Maybe, you know, I don't buy into that. Yeah.
That's it. That's cool that you got in a big movie. And I want to go back. Everyone knows you from different things because you're, you know, Instagram's buffest man. You were the baddie wrangler. We touched on some of that stuff but let's start back on what brought you out to Hollywood and how you got into the entertainment game. Because I remember seeing that video of you when you were younger, and you weren't the built beast that you are now. You were rapping that Drake and Eminem song.
It's so funny because that was like behind the scenes of a skit that I was doing with like this skit. So it's like, I didn't even if I didn't post that video, you know, it's just like me, like somebody's like, Mark, do this on camera, like as we're shooting a skit, and I was like, you know, there he go, Pakistanians and shady spits his flow. It was like, because that song was at the time, right? But I'll take you back to, because it's funny, you know, and a lot of like the stuff that I get on the Reddit and what you're commenting on is like, Mark looked different at a different time, and I'm like, yes, that's true. But also, like, you got to realize when I was 19 years old, I was 250, you know, like playing college football. So my deliberate attempt to look more normal and strip myself of muscle was something that I got up to like 230 naturally. Then I did a few cycles in college to play football. Like, not like I was like, thought I was going to go to the NFL or something. It was more out of just curiosity, you know, and I've always kind of been like, there's different types of guys who use steroids. Some guys are like, I don't, just tell me what to take. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I was always the guy like researching it since
we have to, it's your body.
Yeah. Right. So, but I was like, not everybody cares. Like a lot of guys, like they found out that I knew about it. They'd be like, just tell me what to take. But I was always like on the computer, like how the fuck are these guys getting so big? And so I figured out like sources, and I was using like the proto dark web in like the early 2000s, you know what I mean? To like get steroids.
Was that sketchy for you to go into like the dark web kind of area where you kind of like
100%? Yeah, back in the day, because it wasn't even the dark web. I just used that as an analogy for like what is happening now. But what you would do is like pay some money. I remember the site was Steroid Encyclopedia, but it was spelled like the British version, like
right with the OU. Okay.
Something, yeah, it was like something like they added a vowel to it, where I'm like, it's a British website, and you could pay $20 a month to get like this list of sources, and essentially that was the dark web, because that's how the dark web markets operate now. Is you have like a vendor system with ratings, so you could see like people's feedback and whether or not this person's legit. But like what that means in real terms is I would find a source, I'd email them, and then they'd be like, cool, like send an envelope of cash to this address, you know, or like you know, do a Western Union. And I remember like trying to do it online, and they're like, this recipient can't be like,
oh,
I had to like go in. Like it was like, I was doing sketchy shit, but like it always worked out. I never got burnt, because when you have a system in place where it's like, you know, it's like a Yelp review. It's like, if you go online and say like, this guy never sent me my D-ball, then
no one's going to go to you.
Yeah, exactly. So all I know, you know, I'm just saying like, I started taking acting classes when I was like the size I am now, around a bunch of theater dorks in college. Like, you know what I mean? So like, what's funny is, yeah, when you see me like later, I was like, oh, I think I'd be more castable if I looked like more normal sized.
Right.
And also had this idea of like, I don't know if there's an analogy for your life, but for me, it was kind of like, I'm sick of being perceived as the buff guy, or something. Like you had this like, almost like you're being just take me, because like one person says some comment like, oh, I thought you were dumb when I met you because you look buff.
Yeah, I get it. Stereotypes.
One comment makes you go like, wait, do I you know? So eventually I shook all of that, and I hope that everyone who has any sort of like idea, you know, where it's like you let it, that's like the hater comment, where it's like this thing gets under your skin, or you're like, you know, playing someone else's tune because of some sort of irrational thing. But I've since then fully embraced my meathead self. And, you know, like in my mid 30s, I was like, fuck this shit. Like I always liked lifting heavy weights and juicing. Now I take a smarter approach to everything, and I'm still like the steroid nerd, you know, as far as trying to safely use anabolics and learn as much as possible to get the greatest benefit out of the least dosage, and try to pass it on to people so that they don't have to make the mistakes that I did when I was a kid. But like in college, I started theater, and I got into it like thinking, because I always just had that instinct, and my parents are very like encouraging. And I remember I used to do like, my dad used to like make me do bits and stuff like that. Like I used to do like a Mike Tyson impression remember when he had that documentary on MTV, like, I don't know if you guys are probably too young for this, but like,
yeah, I don't know.
They used to do like these documentaries, and I remember learning about his like pigeons and stuff like this. And I learned all these about Mike Tyson. And then like, as like a kid, I was like going off on like a monologue about like in Mike Tyson's voice that like, you know, this motherfucker killed my pigeons and I beat his ass. And like, whatever, you know. And like
that James Toback one? That James
Toback no, this is like way before this. And I love that documentary. And
to
me, that's such an amazing documentary. But it was like, it almost was told like, it was more like cartoony and like visual. Like it was like MTV in the 90s, like made this Tyson documentary about his life. And so the same facts, it's just like sense, like I thought the Toback thing was super interesting, because it's like, they did it like a psychiatry chair where he's like leaning back and Toback's behind him asking the questions.
Right.
And it like puts him into this trance almost. But so I remember just getting like doing that, and then like my dad like encouraging me to be like, oh, you're good at like performing or doing jokes. So I had it somewhere in my head that I was like, this would be good for me. But again, when you start taking classes, in college, it's like it's like a High School Musical where like the jock is doing theater. So I felt like that. But like then when it came time to like audition for plays, it was like the first one I auditioned for, I got the lead role in, and it was a sense of like, I'm like, well, I know they didn't just give it to me because I suck. Like, like I know like every other guy was trying to get this lead role in this play and didn't, and you can be salty or whatever you want about it, but like I felt like I earned it at least. So like there was enough of a thing where I was like,
I earned this.
Yeah, but then again, along the way, my first foray into entertainment really after graduating, like I had this crazy story happen that I turned into a script and it was made independently. It's called Perfect Sport. And so it like the script itself, I like kind of gave myself a film education. And this is something like not a lot of people know. If you don't know me or whatever, you know me online, it's like, because I like send people scripts sometimes, or like I write, when I started writing like scripts for Isaiah, now we do like more longer form stuff.
Right.
And he's like, oh, this really good. I'm like, yeah, like I've been trained as a professional.
I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, it's like, but I forget because people don't.
It ain't new to me, buddy.
Yeah. So, but I basically gave myself this crash course in screenwriting, and took like the UCLA professional program eventually. But like at first, it was just like reading books, watching movies, reading scripts all the time, around the clock. It was like right out of college, I was like just obsessed with movies, and I still can have that love for film. Where I think,
right,
like I remember the first movie I got off Netflix was Apocalypse Now, and I remember calling people up. Have you seen Apocalypse Now? They're like, yeah, in high school. What the fuck are you talking about?
It's even better when you rewatch as an adult, though. Those films that you
100%
remember in high school, because you understand more of the concepts and whatever else is going on, the societal cues and all that good shit. It's insane.
There's many elements and many things like a good book. It's like, man, I didn't really read in high school, but then I'm like, this book is fucking, but I wasn't ready for it at 16. So. I still have that love for cinema. Basically, like, I wrote a lot of scripts. I had one that was produced. I've had a few like shorts and a couple independent features that have been produced. It's just I stopped doing that as much because I was like, I don't think I believed. I wish I would have pursued acting more. I was just kind of like, because like the first one I wrote got made, I'm like, oh, maybe I should do more of this. But like then you kind of see the reality of like getting independent scripts made. Like if you're just the screenwriter, if you're not like a star, a producer with money, it's like all these things have to come together. So it's almost like, and the one I wrote, it did pretty well for an independent film. Like it won a few like film festivals, like this Seattle International Film Festival, like a special jury prize, like Houston Film Festival won some gold award. Like, so, but even getting into, I'm like, holy shit. Like, cause I've subsequently seen people have these movies where it's like, there was also like you need to have a story behind the movie even, and the fact that like me and like the guy directed it was like 22 at the time, and so it's like, oh, young, so you kind of get these like, oh, that's part of the story to get this movie, but like otherwise to get into Sundance, like you're fucked, dude. Like it's so hard to get into any sort of name brand film festival, and they kind of only take like movies that like are basically like it's like, well, this like super famous actor is in it, and like it's like, oh, okay, like Greta Gerwig directed it or whatever. It's in Sun. It's like what
super competitive, and then a lot of nepotism and within it, like
correct. So I saw that, I'm like, this isn't like a fair system per se. Now that's not to say that like a lot of people delude themselves and go like, my script. I've read so many terrible scripts too that people are like, oh, you're a screenwriter, like read my script. I'm like this is the worst thing I've ever read. So there are a lot of delusional people in Hollywood for sure too, but it is like,
and there's a lot of passion that has to go into it. Even if you have the super passion and a great product, doesn't mean you're going to make it. It's just like, like you're saying, it's
luck of the draw. Yeah. Like, but once you have a script that's like this good, once you pass this threshold, then all these other things have to, so I've read many scripts where I'm like, this is the best script I've ever read, but it's never been made, but it was passed down. It's just,
Mark, I got a question for you though. Real quick. What's your take on foreign films actually becoming more prominent within cinema right now? Because I love it too, because like Korean films, French, there's a lot, they're starting to get more noticed now in the US because they're starting to, I don't know what is about foreign films that are drawing American audiences towards them. They're getting more prominence in the Academy Awards, Global Awards, all that good shit.
Here's a recent example, and I'd list a few foreign films off the top of my head as my favorite films of all time. Parasite is the most recent example of a movie that I
that's a great film. Amazing.
This is a masterpiece.
Yes, like, brilliant.
Hands down, across the board. It combines multiple genres. The execution of the film is flawless. I would say, like, if it were told from the perspective of the family, the rich family, then it would actually be a horror movie of like this people invading the house, but it's almost like this dark comedy, as well. But I found it to be one of the most fascinating, original, and like funny. I really love dark comedies, like
like Death Becomes Her,
or like, have you ever seen Little Children?
No.
Okay, it's a movie. It's like it's based on a novel by Tom Perrotta, who's the same guy who wrote the novel Election, and he's one of my favorite writers. But it's like it's like suburban dysfunction, where it's like it's called Little Children because it's like the husband and a wife are like cheating on their spouses by meeting at the playground where like there's little kids around, and like so it's the Little Children is a double entendre, and there's like one of the characters is like a pedophile who's just, you don't really know what happened. It's just like he's kind of at the background and they're always discussing him, and like everything like intersects at the climax. It all involves children somehow, and kind of people like being stuck in a childhood mentality. So it's like, but it's dark and it's funny. It's almost like American Beauty, where it's like it's a dark, ironic movie, but there's a lot of like humor to it. But to me, and also, have you ever seen The Lives of Others, this German movie that won Best Foreign Film? I want to say in like somewhere between 2006 to 2008, but it's like,
no, I did not.
So it's a German period piece essentially, where they follow like the lives of others refers to the idea that like there's this like Stasi guy, who's like, he's been assigned to monitor this artist couple. So like he's like hanging out every day, like listening to their conversations. It's like he's listening to the lives of others and transcribing them. And he's like starts the movie as this complete hard ass, ruthless, like
sociopath.
Yeah. And then over the course of time, he like falls in love with this couple and starts faking the reports to like make them, to like help them like escape East Germany. You know what I mean? And like, character arc is really incredible. But like, the general statement about foreign films that I'd make is that tell stories that like that, because the profit motive is so strong in America and in foreign countries, there's more like funding for like, oh, this is like a historically important project. Let's make this. There's more like government funding for certain projects. In America, it's almost like as time has passed, you don't see as many like $10 million budget movies like Pulp Fiction or something. At the time, it was like that was like a low budget, quote unquote, indie movie that attracted stars, but it's like it wasn't made for a lot of money and it was simple and it's fucking, the script's weird as fuck. You know what I mean? Like,
well, like you cut off. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
You know what? That I really enjoyed like the Dogma 95 stuff that like Lars von Trier was doing. You ever see some of his stuff where it was like they had all these rules about making film, and it had to be like none of the actors could be anyone you knew. It had to be like a certain amount. It was basically a doctrine of what the rules were. And Lars von Trier came out of that, and he's made a bunch of crazy movies, over the years. But
and I remember reading that list one time. I forget what it was, but it's like the lighting's minimalistic, makeup is minimalistic. Like there's these things that like scale it down so that we're not, because you just forget that like every dollar you add to a budget, you essentially have to broaden the audience. You know what I mean? That's why we see like, so the polarization of film has happened because it's like, it doesn't make sense. Like if you want to make a bunch of money in movie making, you have to spend a bunch of money, which means you have to have an audience as broad as possible, which means that we're favoring these huge spectacle superhero movies, which I don't really like.
Or some horror films, right?
Yeah. That are, to me, I just like, I like the best horror films, but
I mean, I just recently watched a great horror film. You ever heard of Babadook? I think it was English, right? Babadook.
Or was it Aussie?
Was it Aussie?
I forget, but I think I remember seeing it, and and like
I know it's English, but it's a brilliant horror film. But it's on a budget. I think it was like maybe I think they said it was like around $90,000 to $100,000, and it made like something mil in the box office. It's just a brilliant film about just I would say your own I'm trying to like psychological persona on what's going on, and just just I can't even explain right now because I'm
I might be confusing with another movie, but like I love hearing stories like that where you go, because those people probably had to put up their own money. If it's a $90,000 budget,
it's around that. It's a little bit more than that probably, but
and so you love to see movies like that. I wish there were more movies made like that, but like I was always draw, like, for example, there's a Spanish writer director, Pedro Almodovar, who's made a number of fantastic movies, and you just see where it's like different cultures come up with different stories, and also different audiences have these different like tastes and kind of expectations for things. And so yeah, it's just like a fact that some of the best movies I've ever seen are foreign films, but like to American audience, sometimes they're like, with subtitles, fuck it. It's like, do you realize if you say I don't want to read subtitles, how many good movies are missing?
Oh, it's insane. I love reading. I mean, I used to watch a lot of anime growing up, so I'm used to subtitles.
Yeah,
but I mean, another great series is that the mariachi gentleman. What was it that came out?
Rodriguez.
Yeah. What he did, the actual first original one, the first one. You know, the budget was insane. It was very cheaply made.
Yeah, I mean, literal thousands, like a few $1,000. And he detailed his process. I remember reading his book about how he made it, like, and he raised the money by like subjecting himself to science experiments. Like he let himself be like a test subject, right? For like to like raise like the $5,000, or I'm misquoting like the actual number, but I remember whatever it was like insanely low. However, preparation meets opportunity, because he, as a kid, he also talked about how he would shoot and edit these little like movies himself, and he learned to edit by using like 2 VCRs. So like he knew how to edit, like where he was like, I know exactly what shot I need, how long it needs to be. So like he was already used to going like, I'm using one take, and then I know how to edit in like a way more difficult way that's more analog, which I think helps you, because the best directors like Clint Eastwood, for example, is known as somebody who puts movies in under budget. Like you give him 20 million, like $1 Million Baby came in like $10 million under budget, because if you get it right on the first take, he just goes, we're moving on, because he has the confidence of all the repetitions that he's ever done. So, you know, that's interesting compared to like, I've worked with directors who keep doing take after take after take of the same thing. And you're like, you're not giving me any notes. So like, I don't know what to do different. You know what I mean? And you're just like, you think you're giving yourself options, but it's just kind of wasting time. So
yeah, I always loved like the auteur, like Jim Jarmusch or Lars von Trier, who like they write the movie, they direct it, they cast it, and they use the same characters, and they all have a certain style to it. And it's like,
and we see some modern day, like Paul Thomas Anderson, you know what I mean?
Of course, he's amazing.
Yeah, but there's a lot of guys in that vein where like, yes, I love a good writer director who's like eccentric. Even like Bobcat Goldthwait, you know, Goldthwait like is an interesting writer director. I remember seeing his
where's some of his pieces.
Kevin Smith back in the day.
Yeah,
you know, before he kind of fell off.
Bobcat Goldthwait made this movie called World's Greatest Dad, which ironically
amazing.
It has it has an interesting tie into my life, because that was the last movie that I ever saw with my dad before he passed away suddenly. And a lot of it, like Mir is like in this movie, the guy's like, it's kind of like this dark comedy where this like really loving father has this like piece of shit kid who like like, and he's like such a good dude, and he like essentially the inciting incident to the movie is he finds his kid has like accidentally hung himself, like autoerotic asphyxiation.
No.
Looked like he and being such a good dad, he's like, I can't let this get out. So he like staged it to look like you know, like he committed suicide, and like kind of like kept that secret so that he wouldn't like be like
made fun of, destroyed societally.
But it was just a funny thing, because I'd also been with my dad. I saw Robin Williams perform stand-up comedy twice unexpectedly at like just a comedy club in Marin County, like right after college. We would go to this like local like Tuesday night show at the Throckmorton Theater, it was called. It would just be like, you know, 10 local Bay Area comics. So it was like something to do. And 2 times me and my dad were there together, and they're like, and ladies and gentlemen, Robin Williams is coming to the stage.
People would freak out.
Yeah, and because again, it's like this 100-person theater. I'm going to see Robin Williams, and both times he go, give me a topic, and he took one topic and did an hour of like improvised stand up from that one line. And like by the end, he's like sweating his tits off because he's like everything's physical. So it was like I got the craziest like live Robin Williams experience in like the most intimate theater with my dad. And like the last movie I saw with him was like, you know, World's Greatest Dad, starring Robin Williams, and that's a Bobcat Goldthwait movie. That, like, again, you pitch that story to somebody in Hollywood, it's hard to be like, yeah, and then the son dies because he's a piece of shit and he's jerking off and chokes himself to death. You're like, what? But like, the movie's fantastic, you know.
Well, what's crazy too is, you know, ultimately that was his demise too. Didn't Robin Williams hang himself?
Yeah, he did, right? Because of the like
not Alzheimer's, but he was like depressed and he was losing memory, right, or some crazy shit like that.
Yeah. No, I forgot about that too. That he did. That was like how he killed himself. Was like a belt, right? Like, not like a full hanging, maybe. But like,
fucked. It's sad, man.
Yeah. No, it is sad, and a lot of people were affected by his death. You know, so just like that also made me like look back at like, yes, this guy that like brought so many people joy.
I got a question for you, Mark, real quick. This is a little bit off topic because since we're talking about death and, you know, horrible shit going on.
Yeah.
Since you're in California, or you're in that kind of vibe, you're pretty successful, you know, doing your own thing, you're killing it, doing your own shit. What is it like, kind of like dealing with people who have like addictions or any of this other shit that are kind of depressive in some type of state? Because, you know, you've been in the top spot, like with Brendan Schwab being his producer, you've been on the limelight.
Top spot.
Like, you've seen people be at the top but still be somewhat compressed and depressed at the same point in time. What's your take on that? Like, just what, like, not what fame does, but just the reality of like people watching you, watching people just succumb to that and just fall apart. Is it kind of disturbing?
Well, I think that I'll try to answer this as best as I can, like, while also being open and honest, being like, I know what it's like to have, like, to suffer from depression, to suffer from like substance dependency, you know, without making it about myself. But it's like, I'm not going to say any of this from a perspective of like, these are other people. Like, you know, it's like, trust me, I know family members, you know, I've had substance issues. My family members have, close friends of mine have. I've obviously worked for people who have substance issues, but the correlation of that, like when you see it with somebody like Brendan, you know, but also realize this, years ago, I worked for somebody who like a guy who I'd actually written a script with when he was sober. And he was from Australia. And like when I met him, I didn't know. So I think he was like in his late 20s, and I was a few years younger than him. But he, like, based on that first movie that I made, he was actually like, oh, I want to write a script with you. And I'd had success because I wrote it with the director, and then the director was like also the producing force behind it. So it's like, I like that role of being like, I'm going to do the script and like, you kind of give me your input. I can do most of the writing, but like, you're going to carry that torch and then push it. And we wrote this script about the Cronulla Beach race riots of 2005 in Sydney, Australia. Like, we were like a thriller involving like this guy's like younger brother gets murdered and he's looking for the killers, but it like revolves around these historical events. And it actually got a lot of attention from, like, we had several like A-list Aussie actors attached to it. So it's like, it could have been made, but the guy ultimately wasn't able to like raise enough money, even though he had like some private funds. Like, you know, looking back, I'm like, he should have just, like, he had $100,000 cash. He could fucking throw down to like make the first 10 minutes of it or what, you know what I mean? So like, and I've known friends who like, they've had to do that where it's like, they use their own savings to fucking make this, to at least like put something down. And then you get other people to come in, but he couldn't get the ball rolling, I think, just out of like fear and kind of like,
well, I understand that though.
You're
kind of scared.
He also inherited the money. So I think people who inherit money have a different relationship with money sometimes, like where they don't, like, maybe it's like, I don't know how I'll get it back if I spend it. You know what I mean?
Right. It's not going to come back.
Yeah. So versus a guy who's like, well, yeah, I'll just keep working. You know, like my other buddy, Nick Ritchie, who's, you know, he's made multiple independent features, but he still like works, you know, like jobs.
Right.
And shit
I understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, but he wasn't scared to put like $50,000 of his own money into something, which was a lot to him, you know, but like it's paid off because he's advanced his career. But to bring it back to your question, I successfully collabed with this guy, and then he had to go back to Australia because of like his visa ran out.
Right. And he was sober at the time when you guys did this.
Yes. And then I actually wrote like a number of short films for him while he was in Australia. So I'd write the scripts and then he'd direct the feature or the shorts. And then he came back to America in like, this was 2012. And he was kind of like, I want to start a production company and like write this new script. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, here's my idea for the script. If you just like pay me this amount of money, it's kind of like the basics. I can, you know, like if you put me up in a place and put me, like I can devote all this time to like helping start a business. Also, you kind of have to like use me as like the person when you want to get an E2 visa to start a business, you have to like hire somebody. So it's like you're using me to be your employee and you want to start a production company business that does like actual production. But he got here and I noticed he was like, I'm like, yeah, kind of partying a lot. Like first he was like, when he came to America, he was like in Vegas with his Australian buddy for like, it's like, oh, we're going to Vegas for the weekend. And then that turned into like 5 days. And then it's like 7. And like, he ended up being there for like 11 days, you know, like, and in my head, I'm going, you're getting it out of your system, or that's what he was saying.
It's about 9 days too long in Vegas.
Right.
2 days is about it, the max.
No, exactly. I don't know anybody who's like spent that long in Vegas. And I ended up going, like I did like a couple nights with him towards the end. And I saw him just like sleep through the fucking, you know, the checkout time. So he wasn't waking up to like 4. But anyway, when somebody says they're going to get something out of their system, that's like an addictive substance. That's not how it works. You just do more of it. So you can't like a cokehead doesn't get coke out of his system. You know what I mean? They just do more until they hit rock bottom. So when he finally got back to LA and I was like trying to set things up with him and like get like his input on the script and like start a production company, like, and I'm kind of like going like, I'm trying to help you like apply for this government process thing. And you're like out partying at the fucking Roosevelt or the fucking Mondrian.
You're feeling used here.
Yeah, I was. But like more specifically, it's like
disrespecting.
I can use you back, but like, you're just wasting my time. And I saw how, basically, like when somebody's on a lot of substances, how selfish they become and how they make everyone else the villain. Because if you're the person who's like, I remember he'd like have like parties at the house and I kind of just be like, who the fuck are these people? I wouldn't even make a big stink about it. It'd just be like me being there and him knowing that like, I know that like, this is all like fake. You know what I mean? It's like, they don't want that there. Right. And so
you're right. This would not be happening in a normal circumstance. Yeah.
Yeah. And like there's a lot of connections to how I perceive Brendan, because it's like to be kind of like a functioning addict, you do have to surround yourself with people who kind of like facilitate that all the time. You know what I mean? And like
that's fucking
you end up being moody, like because again, Brendan, when I knew Brendan, was like he's starting off the day with 8 shots of espresso, taking multiple Adderalls a day, like 3 to 4, like 30 milligram Adderalls, popping Kratom's, taking 18 milligrams of nicotine at a time, drinking alcohol. So even just that, it's like that with addictions, it becomes the forefront of your thing. And my personal like observations of Brendan is just that he's not a very happy person. You know what I mean? Like I would often just see him like in what seemed to be like states of like being miserable. Like I think he liked being on stage because he likes attention, but like
because you're broken. Yeah.
Yeah. He always just kind of felt like, oh, he's always so annoyed by people, or like if you have a conversation that's too long around him, he's like, you guys done with your podcast? It's like he doesn't like, it just always seemed like he was like taking something out. And it makes sense in retrospect because you probably know a lot of addicts who are like when they don't have their fix or whatever,
they're on edge.
Yeah, they're on edge and they just kind of like they snap at people, or their moods can be really irregular, you know, which you can definitely say about. And everyone who's worked for Brendan would know that it's like we getting fucking suddenly like, why am I getting a text at 10 p.m. about fucking finish up that editor? You know, it's like it's always some random like are we getting friendly Brendan or asshole Brendan or whatever, which is again, it's not unique to him. It's just like that's addict personality because like they go through so much every day and that's at the forefront of their mind. It's hard to empathize with other people when you're on substances. Yeah.
So you had a few acting credits, right? That were very popular. How did you fall in? I mean, I watched the Thor thing. It was brilliant. My take. Yeah. But how did you fall into the producing aspect? Honestly, like, what made you want to start producing more, and how'd you fall into that? Like,
you mean like with Brendan, like working on the production side?
I mean, honestly, Brendan's great and all, but you can bring. I would love for you to bring that up too, but just just overall, man, like, what kind of made you want to be behind the scenes more and produce more?
Because I wouldn't really like refer to myself as a producer, except like what I do now, like with Isaiah, I guess you could call it in a sense producing, because now I write more stuff, and I kind of like I have a hand in everything where I'm like, I'm writing it, I'm consulting with the director, I'm kind of giving partial directions, I'm giving notes on editing. So it's like I am overall being a producer, which is something I would have realized. I wish I would have like thought about sooner, which is like, if you're gonna do anything, if you're gonna start something, there's a million ways it can be fucked up. And I've had arguments that I've lost friendships over where I'm like, I think something should be done one way and it's done another way. And you compromise. You're like, all right, well, I saw it being shot like this.
Well, you have to always compromise in life.
Yes. Yeah, you do. But sometimes like I've learned what my hills to die on are. In other words, like I've learned what like
self-respect.
Yeah. Like I've learned like I'm always open to ideas. But if I know something needs to be done a certain way and I'm not being heard, I'll be like, all right, I'll back out, So I'm very quick to say that. But luckily I work with people now like Isaiah and our crew of people, like our editor Nap and this guy Nate, who now films our long form stuff, where it's like if everybody's comfortable with their role and kind of being like, yes, certain people are going to have certain says in certain ways, but everybody can kind of collaborate like loosely outside of that, then everybody can get along.
I mean, that's what you want.
Well, you've done a good job of merging your love for fitness into your love for entertainment, because I think, if I recall, you met Chow through lifting weights, basically.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point, because I always saw those two things as like,
and then Isaiah, of course, too.
Yeah, exactly. So I like the fact that like I can at least like. And when people talk about like the gym skits we do, it's like you got to realize like anything we put on like YouTube Shorts or IG, it's like most of the time it's just a loose premise that we're like, we get together like, okay, let's like beat it out real quick. You know what I mean? It's like I think of it like hitting singles. I'm just like, we're just trying to like hit singles every day. And then if we do something longer form, it takes more energy. I'm trying to go for a home run on that and like make it as good as possible. But a lot of times it's like it's a good exercise in and of itself just to put yourself in the corner and be like, all right, we have like an hour to shoot a skit, like let's come up with the funniest beats possible based on this relatable premise. And I do think like exploring, because kind of it's almost like a kind of relatively recent genre is like gym entertainment or gym comedy.
That's not true. No.
What predates it?
That's not true. Come on, Bro Science Man and all those other guys.
Yeah, Tom Massetti. No, what I'm saying is I consider him a pioneer, but like that wasn't like 20 years ago. That's more like what, 10? You know what I mean? Or
like a decade ago. It was huge.
Yeah. So huge. That's what I mean. Where it's like, because before that,
Jimmy Tatro was doing it too. Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
Okay, you're good. Go ahead.
But yeah, I don't mean to say that like I've invented anything, by the way. I just mean like where it was, where you had guys like that are doing this funny character, to like right now, so many people are trying to do like gym comedy or Instagram skits that involve like the gym. And it's interesting because it's almost like, I was explaining this to Isaiah the other day. I'm like, Sam Smith was sued by Tom Petty over the song "Stay With Me." Won't you?
Yeah.
Right. Because of "Won't Back Down." No,
and I won't back down.
Like, so that melody was enough for Tom Petty to sue and get partial royalties.
Fuck yeah, he did.
Now, and I believe that's like, yeah, that's that. I don't know. That sounds reasonable to me, because that's like when you create original intellectual property, people shouldn't be able to like take any part of it and profit from it. But we're in a content space now where I'll see like the same skit being made like shot for shot like 100 different times. Or I'm like for example, one where somebody goes like when you go in to hit legs and then you like slip on a weight and like you like fall like all over the place, like, and then you like land on the bench press.
Oh, I love you.
And like kudos to whoever came up with that. But then I'm like the second and the third and the 50th and the 100th and the 200th person to like remake that just for likes. It's like, bro, like you're copying. You know what I mean? That's not cool. Or like, or give credit to the original person. Be like, I recreated this skit from this person. But I don't know how you.
Well, there's like those like prank YouTube was popular for a while, like Milk Boys, and then there's a bunch of copycats, and then they started faking the pranks, you know.
Yeah. It's like that. It's like a weird space where you kind of go like, is it a prank if it's faked, or is it just a skit? Like, and I don't personally, as somebody who like I've done skits for like TV and stuff like that on 50 Central, I hated doing pranks. I hated them because I hate like fucking with people who don't want to participate in it. You know what I mean? Like I like fucking with people who like if you fuck with me, then it's fun to fuck with you back, or whatever. But like, you know, just going up to like innocent people, like trying to scare them to get their reaction, or like talking shit to them. Like I remember they made me do one where it's like I had to like go up to like strangers and like pretend like I wasn't looking at them, but I just start like freestyle rapping about them. So it's like, first of all, it's like you have to like know how to freestyle rap. Then you have to like, then the way that I freestyle rap is not like insult based per se. You know, it's not like battle rapping. It's like,
right,
because not every freestyler is a battle rapper.
Observational more.
Yeah, right. You like, or just like whatever comes to your head. It's like I'm just trying to say funny shit, and you know, like if I freestyle rap. So then it's like now I have to make it like appearance and insult based. So I just remember being like, I know I'm going to do this fucking prank tomorrow. I'm like dreading it. And they're like, oh, we didn't get enough footage when we filmed the other day. We need to do it again. I'm like, motherfucker. So I personally, like, I hate pranks.
No, you hate pranks. Come on, man.
Okay, that's you're good. Good pushback. You're right. I don't.
I gotta push back. I'm the host, so we're the host, so we gotta push back a little bit on here. Right?
I would say this. I like pranks where it's like Jackass, for example. They would prank each other, but they're on the same wavelength of like, we're all in this arena together. I can prank you, and you can prank me. I'm a little less a fan of pranking like complete strangers who are just like, because I remember one time, for example, this will be the synopsis of like why I don't like pranks.
Okay.
I'm gonna do this prank where like I pretend to like I'm carrying around an urn and it has like fake ashes in it. And like I like trip and like fall and like spill it on somebody, and I have to be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like it's my grandpa's ashes. And I remember like they're like, go up to this person, you know, do it. And I have to do it, and like the shit gets in like his mango fucking salad. And it was like this 60-year-old dude, and he was like, we're just trying to have like, it's my birthday today, and like we're just trying to have fucking lunch in the park. And they're like, they try to pay you afterwards. They're like, oh, here's $100 gift card to blah 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 if you'll sign the release. He's like, no, I don't want anything to do with it. I was like, oh my God, I just fucked up this guy's birthday. Like I felt so bad, you know.
You're a better man than most of us, bro.
I know. Yeah, it's telling. It's like maybe I'm too sensitive to do pranks, but like it just, the juice to me wasn't worth the squeeze. What I do like is funny shit, like when I see like spouses pranking each other, I find that funny. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it's kind of like, you know, or like when Bam used to do it to his parents, I felt like it was like kind of like I felt bad for his dad, but the shit was hilarious. Like, you know.
Do you remember that one couple back in the day on YouTube, Jesse and something like that blonde bitch and that one Italian guy? It's like Jesse and something. They were that prank couple that were huge. Do you remember that at all?
No, I probably seen them before. I just wouldn't know them by name, but I know
his name's Jesse. That's it.
Pranks, like couples pranking each other, and some of the shit's like legit hilarious, but it's kind of like,
oh yeah,
it's not a stranger. You know what I mean? You know the other person's boundaries because there's things you can do like that may seem extreme, but it's like to your partner who knows you really well and then knows that they can get you back later. It's like a different ball game. So, you know, I just think there's ethics to it. I'm not saying I have the right answers. I just know that like some pranks, I'd be like, this just like feels weird and wrong. I don't want to do it. You know, like I'd much rather do it, you know.
I think most of that shit's kind of played out. I think the new big thing is this e-drama stuff that's going on. You know, like the Bappa verse that you're in. And like we're in this Dabbler verse or like shit verse, mud verse stuff where it's like people just beefing online over dumb shit.
Like what? So when you say those other words, because I know like
I gotta take a piss for you guys.
I love like adding like verse to things. Like I like that description, and I know what you mean. Generally speaking, of like, there's a lot of content to be made that like we'll just talk about like, you know, more well-known podcasts like Too Lazy to Try or whatever. I know like covers a lot of podcasts or like podcast Cringe, is it called? That guy, the Australian guy. I like his content a lot. And mainly because I'm giving examples of people who are kind of like, they're giving the insight as a viewer, as like a level-headed, like reasonable person. They're never like, they're not even like haters of Brendan Shaw, you know, like, or like, you don't need to be like some like, fuck this guy. It's just like, it's kind of giving an average
synopsis of like all the drama that's happening in Reddit or whatever.
Yeah.
So like the one, The one that I mentioned, the Dabbler verse, it revolves around Stuttering John from Howard Stern.
Yeah.
And he streams every day, and there's like several thousand people who just like troll him and hate him, basically. Kind of like a Chow, but on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
And he beefs with like Kevin Brennan, who's like this old comedian, and all these like boomer, like washed up comedians. They just fight online and they stream live, and then their fans fight with other people.
The streaming thing is new to me too. Like I went on a 7-hour live stream recently with this guy. Lossless is his official. Official, like, and that was mainly to talk about this guy Jimmernam, who's, it's like you're getting into these niche, but Jimmernam ran a channel called TFAK that was just reading comments about Brendan Schaub on like the TFAK subreddit. I had a personal beef with him, but this is like, to even like explain, I was trying to explain it to this guy that I know who's like 16, doesn't know. And it's like, to start from the beginning and fucking walk somebody like through how you end up like beefing with a guy who says he's going to break your arm, who does content about Brendan Schaub, except it's not original. He goes to this subreddit to get comments to make video. Like, you know, it's like,
I know all this.
To impact, yeah.
And Jimmernam is somewhat tied in too. They all kind of tie in because Jimmernam used to cover Howard Stern stuff, and I guess he did a prank on someone who's in the Dabbleverse, the Wendy, the mentally, you know.
Yes.
So he did that prank on her. She's in the Dabbleverse, like she streams, and like the same people watch her. And Jimmernam jumped over and did the TFAK channel, which that first night with Sorgon Bird, and you jumped on that stream. I remember that.
Yeah, because again, he was like pretending to be my friend, and that like, and I'm like just not really used to people being like, oh, I'm gonna be your friend, and then like secretly kind of be like, you know, betraying you, whatever. Like whatever. It was a weird thing, but I agreed to do it once, and then the only time I ever heard about him again, like I found out that he like was talking shit about me behind my back and like giving away privileged information that he like had asked for, and I just declined his next offer to do a live stream. That was all I did. And then next thing I know, he's making like super critical content about me again. And I'm like, bro, I'm like, fucking, hey, drop this shit, man. Like, this is sociopathic shit. Like, I don't want anything to do with you.
I don't get these pussies, bro. I don't get it.
Yeah. So he's kind of in this like internet blood sport war type shit. He has been for a while. I guess there's a bunch of these different guys who
let me just say, I think the reason I think it's like, you know why he has to read the Reddit comments is because he just sucks at broadcasting, you know, and he was leaving like threatening voicemails on my phone and shit like that. And but it was just like, it was so bad. I'm like, bro, like, you don't realize like you can't like arouse me to even respond. I'm just going to post the voicemails online. And that's the joke, because you suck at talking shit. You're like, you fucking pussy. Yeah, I'm Asian. How do you feel about that? Getting owned by an Asian. It's like listening to, you know? It's like,
What's people's take on because I haven't been in the Reddit too much over the last like 6 months to a year, but I thought like a lot of Changs didn't like his ass, right?
Oh, they hate him, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, and it's specifically because, and again, I've come to understand the subreddit, aka PF Changs, a lot more. Like, it's funny how much Brendan could have like, there's so many ways he could have dealt with that in a much better way. And I initially was turned off by it because they just started attacking me. I'm like, I haven't fucking done anything. And like, these guys are going nuts over me being on TFAK one time. This is back in 2021. Like after my first appearance, I'm like, boom, next day, just fucking flooded DMs and comments, and my YouTube was going. It's like, what the? I was like, you fucking lip injection, Botox, steroid, meathead, fucking faggot, worst actor of all time. I'm like, whoa, like, so in my head at first I was like, well, their hatred for Brendan must be irrational too, because I know I haven't done anything to these guys personally. Like, you know, like I just appeared, and you're like shitting on me, like failed actor. I'm like, because again, it's like, you've seen a movie that I'm in. I don't ever think about myself as like successful or not. I'm like, every single thing I've booked, I'm like, that's insane, man. The odds against booking anything in Hollywood are crazy. And I never saw myself as like, you're going to be the next Tom Cruise. So it's like, everything that comes in my way, I'm just grateful for it. So somebody's like, you failure as an actor. I'm like, I don't know, man. Me and my friends and my family kind of think it's cool that I've been in some stuff, and that's kind of like where.
No, that's a fucking accomplishment, dude. That's insane. Right. Like, you were in Hangover games. Lots of people have seen that.
And then like, trying to take these experiences. It's almost like it's It's like, I had a really good day at Disneyland. You're like, no, you didn't. You fucking rode the ride, super
fucking faggot.
Yeah. But then there's a civil war at some point in Chang's when you turned, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, half the people still.
You turned?
He turned on Chow.
Come on, man. He's your daddy. Come on, bro.
And then they turned on me. You know, it's like, so look, ultimately, what I do know is the subreddit itself is a collection. It's a complex collection of individuals. You know what I mean? So thinking about it in terms of it being a monolith, like Brendan literally thought that Bobby Lee was like the puppet master of the. I'm like, you don't even know like how a subreddit works. It's like these are all individuals who come together to contribute content, but like he almost thought it was like, it's like Bobby Lee like running his own Instagram page. It's like, no. It's like everybody comes together and everyone can make content. So it's not one person. And also just like the people who it's like, there's a lot of people who frequent the subreddit who never post, who never comment, who never like involved. So like even realizing that if I post something there, there's going to be a certain percentage of people who talk shit like, get this fucking piece of shit out of here. It's like, okay, maybe it's 15% of people, who knows, but it's not the whole thing. Because I also talk privately to guys who are cool. Like, so it's a complete mix, like any social media platform.
It's a congregation, a multitude of people.
Yeah. So there's people from across the board, and I've made friends with a lot of people privately. It's like whatever support it looks like I have or don't have, you got to realize it's like I've met enough people and talked with them privately to know like the average person who like laughs at Brendan Chow on the subreddit is a pretty normal guy. There's some weirdos on either end of the spectrum, but for the most part, it's like he is a lol cow. You know what I mean? So it's like if you're looking for a fucking way to escape, like laughing at Brendan Chow being a dumbass isn't the worst way to do it. You know what I mean? Like,
it's an escape from like the day of watching people fight over politics or something.
Right. You know? Exactly. Right. So that's what we all want to do with comedy anyway, is like, you know, it's just an escape from the Monday. It's because it's so funny you bring that up, because I remember seeing like when the war in Iraq was happening, you see people try to make like too political stuff with their humor that's like pandering. It's like, oh my God, like this is what I already think about this shit all day. Like the news is already fucking hammering this, and then I have to go to a comedy club and hear about George Bush or something. You know, it's like
George Floyd and that shit.
And that was the thing. So I think last time when you were on, it was right when because I rewatched some of our old interview, and I think it was right when you did the famous car thing. You picked up the car.
Wait. That video itself was like, that's very old. So like that was like a video that was released maybe around that time, but that was already like, that had already happened like 2 years before. You know what I mean? So it was like that incident of like us having a fight and like her taking my keys and like me trying to like get out, you know, it's like, eye roll, fucking, that's what I'll be known for the rest of my life. But
no. You'll be known as
I don't want to bring it up, but I just wanted to clarify that was like 2020. Like,
but you know, since that, all that drama that played out, how are things going on that front?
With my wife, we've done a lot of work to.
You guys are back together?
Yeah, you know, I'm here.
Good. No, that's great. That's great. Yeah. I'm happy for you, dude.
Thank you.
You guys made a commitment, and you're actually, you know, working towards bettering that. You have to, dude. I mean,
yeah. And so, and we both have, and you know, but like, you know, things are pretty rough there for a moment. And again, when you know, when you have a perception on the internet or a video like that goes viral and people assume the worst out of it.
Real quick. I'm sorry, before you answer that, bro.
Yeah.
What? Because, you know, there's a lot of shit going on the internet, but your guys' relationship, you know, like it was going in the dumps, you know, that video came out about you and whatnot. What really pushed you and or her to take the, not even the adult, just the step towards bettering your relationship? Like, who really instigated that, and how was it going through that part of it? Like,
we didn't
bring me through that, like you guys approaching each other.
3 months. And then, you know, like, she had me blocked everywhere. So it was just like April, April, I think we started talking, but we didn't, like, nobody would have known because we didn't make anything public. And it was just like, we just like met up to like talk and get a lot of stuff off our chest. And like, you know, we hadn't seen each other for a number of months. And so that was like the first step. It was just like almost starting over. You know what I mean? It was like dating. You know what I mean?
Right. You give her a kiss.
Living together. What was that?
Do you give her a kiss and tell her I love you?
Probably, yeah. There was a lot of, I mean, it was like a very emotionally charged conversation. Of course, got, you know, in person actually talking, but it had been, you know, quite some time, I guess like 6 weeks or something.
That's hard, bro.
And yeah, it was for somebody who, again, I hadn't like gone that long without seeing for like 8 years. So we have gradually done a lot of work, done therapy individually as a couple, and work every day. And but you know, underlying all that is like a mindset shift, I think, for me, of like seeing somebody as like, you know, our marriage was complicated by the fact that she was trying to become an American citizen, and that was almost like this like albatross on my, you know, on your neck, or whatever the fucking analogy is. It's like, okay, I wanted to, it wasn't a green card marriage, but like married her with the intention of being like, we were dating and in a relationship, and I'm like, I want to help you do this. But then it adds the stakes. It's like, well, then we break up, then, you know, you're going to be fucked for, you know, your citizenship status. So she just became a full US citizen last month. So, you know, now that that's been lifted, it's like, there's a lot of things that we can do to
work on your actual, there's no like weird business aspects attached to your relationship now. Now it's just about you two.
Yes, exactly. And so like, I just didn't, when we first entered a relationship, I didn't anticipate it being a source of so much stress, because I was like, of course you're gonna get your green card. Like, we live together and we have sex, and okay, yeah, we married kind of quickly, but that doesn't really matter. But like, you know, you do get visited by, like, we got visited like randomly by USCIS.
Well, you want to make sure you're not just fucking pulling
exactly.
You know,
right? No, they do have mechanisms in place to, like, you know, to make sure they came in. It was like, yeah, we are living together, but
like, are you actually serious? You're just trying to ping people through, you know?
Yeah, exactly. No, you have to. It's just like, she was a lot more nervous about it because she had everything at stake. It's like she had the green card on the line, so she was like really trying to dot all the T's and make sure this is bond. Like, and
you want to do the legal wise
stress for her, and then that becomes a conflict. So I'm like, relax, like, but and then I might get accused of not taking it seriously, even though, like, no, I'm not. I take all of this thing seriously. I know it's going to work out. And if somebody has fears or doubts or neuroses about, like, well, what if,
you're going to assure them of it.
Yeah, but you try to, but then if that person's coming from a place of fear, it's, you can butt heads even over just like, the outcome's going to be good. No, but it might not be. It's like, that's an argument. You know what I mean? So now that she's been naturalized as a citizen finally, which I was very proud to be part of. That was like a nice, because relief. And it's a process. Yes, it was. And it's also like, we had broken up many times during our relationship and come back together, because, like, in my mind, I'm like, I'm not going to, like, leave this person when I told them I would see this process through. So even outside of anything, but of course I loved her the whole time. It's just that, you know, there's been a lot of conflict along the way.
Of course, yeah.
Unfortunately, people got to see some of that, but it wasn't like, I don't think it's insanely abnormal for couples to have that. It's just not everybody gets to see, you know, your worst moments on camera.
Well, I mean, your internet personality, so it kind of sucks a little bit with that, you know.
Yes, but I accept it for what it is, and it's like, well, you know, like, yeah, everybody fucking, you know, if you can't handle me at my diddliest, you don't deserve me at my doodliest. So you've seen me at my doodliest.
Well,
I love you, Mark.
That's the thing. I mean, it's all whatever. It's all just attention, and the attention economy. I guess it all works out. Yeah. But I want to get back to. I want to get back to Chang's for a sec.
Go for it. I'm glad the channel got taken down, because he made so many fucking videos about me and Luana. Like, I'm glad his channel got nuked, and he thinks I did it. Like, I sit around fucking.
I didn't even know that happened.
No.
Yeah, his like original. He has several other channels. He's on there illegally. Like, he was kicked off YouTube as Jimmernam, and as you probably know, once you get kicked off under one identity, like, you're fucked for, like, you can't make another page and come back on under YouTube policy. You're just banned for life. So the fact that he has even 2 other channels, at first it was like TFATK, and then TFATK2 and TFATK3.
Yep. He was calling himself the Golden Voice. He wasn't going by Jimmernam. He was like, I'm the Golden Voice.
Yeah. He's had a bunch of different fucking aliases, but, like, bottom line, he's on YouTube illegally. It's just his main channel that was doing the daily, like, TFATK subreddit, reading comments, you know, about Brendan Schaub, that got shut down for impersonation. But it is true because it's like in order to have a YouTube channel, he like not only was he like using TFAC, like the actual podcast clips, like you could argue it's copyright infringement. You could argue even like the subreddit didn't want it because their rule is don't monetize the sub. This is all just for fun. So he's taking their comments and making money off YouTube videos. It's like me like reading the New York Times and making a living off of it, like making a video of me like read. It's like, is that content or does that mean like just taking an article that I wrote?
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I want to touch on Chang's a little because I haven't been in the loop. But what's the latest? Do you know anything about this Georgie guy or George the kid?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he seems like a really inspirational dude. I remember him being a fan of Brennan, right?
Yeah.
And then he lost a bunch of weight.
Yes.
And the latest was Brennan promised him a job and then tried to fire him or something, right?
that's not an inaccurate synopsis. So basically, yes, like the controversy that popped up was the fact that like, and this is, if it was an isolated incident, it might be different. But what we're talking about is seemingly a pattern with Brendan, with me, with others I've seen, with stories that you're never going to hear about because they involve his side pieces, whose names I won't reveal. You know, but like he has a very strong pattern. Like you know, it's like I just know that I'm privy to stuff. Like I'm saying this is collectively from stories that are both public, personal, and then private and secret. He has a huge tendency to overpromise and underdeliver. And so when it comes to a guy like George, it's like he was an intern. You know, he lost all the weight. He got hired. My experience with George was that he worked his ass off. So normally when you go to a job and you work your ass off and you're there for a year and you learn how to like do many different tasks around there, like you tend to like gain some sort of value within the organization.
Yeah, you want to raise.
Yeah, like, or you become crucial.
You get respected. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's something that happens, and it was just kind of like, well, psych, we can't use you anymore. Like, we need to hire some random be the podcast host who's Brendan's also trying to fuck, you know. And I know that because I like talked to her ex-boyfriend, who's actually like coincidentally like a good friend of mine, and he was like, yeah, it was weird. Like when she started working for him, he'd like be texting her all the time and calling her like late at night. It's like her job is to be on a podcast for a couple hours a week. I don't think she even, because I used to, for example, edit reels, Photoshop the thumbnails, like do time code, like all these other tasks. Like I like worked on the podcast. She seems to just be a personality. Like, so, and I don't think she even runs the social media or anything. But like he knew that there was no reason to like, it's like, why is he like texting at all? And saying it's work, babe, you know, but obviously they're, you know,
it ain't.
He's never met a girl who's like, you know, a 4 or better that he doesn't try to fuck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've just learned that. I didn't hit on Amy Letterman because I'm not attracted to her. I'm like, bro, first of all, I've seen your DMs where you're like sending your peach emojis in response to like a picture of her butt. And then also like I've seen way uglier chicks that you fuck. So like we're not like, you know, is it because you're a sex addict? Like that's the thing. It's like he's a sex addict.
It's power. It's not sex. It's not addiction. It's power.
Yeah.
I don't mix addiction with power, dude. It's power. These people are disgusting. They're fucking twisted.
100%. No, you're right. And I was just explaining to somebody like the power dynamic that he likes to create because
he can.
Yeah, I was just discussing because I know like, you know, something came out. He like posted like a teary-eyed thing about his daughter's been having medical issues, which of course I wish the best for her. But
yeah,
like then I showed this guy who I was discussing it with. I'm like, so here's a video of me, like my wife crying, like when we were looking for my cat that went missing like a couple of years ago for like 8 days. And then here's a video that like I think I sent to like Brendan and Chappelle, like when we found the cat. But like I did a podcast, like I talked about how like I thought the cat was dead and blah blah blah. And it was like this was also like some of like the fights that me and Luana were in that got released online were like during this time. Because you're like not sleeping and you're like freaking out at each other and like you think the cat and she thinks like because like I took out the cat for a walk and like it ran after another cat and then we couldn't find it.
Yeah.
Like, but like like I'm getting blamed for it. You have this conflict, and Brendan's attitude is like, just get another cat. Like, first of all, during the whole thing, when I'm like,
we're like that,
running on no sleep. And then there's this video that, you know, I can actually bring it up right now because I was like showing somebody like what it looked like when, you know, because again, I'm not against people crying or like having an emotional reaction to something. But it was like, I sent him this thing and he chose to like mock it, like in public, you know, like I sent him like a private video.
Dude, fuck him, bro. Go ahead.
So here it is. Minutes after we got it back.
Right. So he's so happy. Your wife was so happy.
We got him in the bush. I was like a minute after we got him inside. Like, it was like a whole search party that was looking for him, and somebody heard him meow, and then we're like digging through this like really thick brush to like get him, and I didn't want that like on. I didn't post that to my story. I just sent it to like him and Chappelle, being like, we found Spider, and you can hear me like sniffling in the background. He plays it on T-Fat-K, and then you hear my German wife like going Spider, and he's like. You can hear Luan in the background, like, oh, Spider, Ozig, hell, Hitler, Spider. It's like,
right.
In that moment, you chose to like mock me for crying and then make a Hitler joke about my German wife. Like, that was where your mind went. But then you're going to like also be like, but if I cry in the internet, boo hoo for me. Like, I just, and again,
that tells you, bro.
Yeah, it's all about
he don't give a fuck about you, bro. He's using content. That's what it is. You're a content monkey for him.
So the latest is, so Georgie, he's still kind of with T-Fat-K, right?
Yeah, well, the thing is, so how I come into this picture is like his mom like DM'd me because I said like he had said something negative about me that I became aware of, like to Luana. And I don't fault, like we've since talked, like George like apologized for it. Like he actually was very manly about it because he took ownership of it, apologized for it. And I just like had mentioned it. And his mom like DM'd me like, hey, don't talk about my son. I was like, hey, look, lady, just to let you know, Brendan Schaub doesn't give a fuck about your kid. I actually do. No. And I told him the story about how like when I was still working there, because they did this thing up like this year, like, we're gonna fly you home for the holidays. Like, yeah, you're so generous. That happened the year before too, when it was like his first year working there, and he's like, gather around, thick boy employees. You know?
Yeah.
George, you want to go home for the holidays? And he's like, well, I can't because I don't have any money. He's like, problem solved, buy a new ticket. Yeah, Brendan, you're so generous.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Masa. Thank you, Masa.
Yes, thank you, Masa. But then like a few days later, right before the flight was supposed to happen, it got canceled right in the middle of the night. Because of the airline bullshit, right?
Okay, it was because the British dropped its car getting declined.
Brendan comes in on the Monday, so like let's say it was like Sunday night that it got canceled, and George texts Jay, Brendan's brother, and he's like, "Hey, I need like $200 more because like the new flight is more expensive." And if I get a text like that from George in the night, I'm Venmoing him $200, and I'm saying, "Don't ever think about paying me back," like or whatever, or what you like. But it would just be like, or if I was Jay, I'd just be like, hey, Brendan, could you reimburse me or whatever? But like, Jay has a job, like a 6-figure job, like on top of getting money for managing Brendan on top. Like, so he has money. Like, it's not like $200. Like, we're talking about
Jay is rich, right?
22-year-old. I don't know if he's rich. I'm just saying, like, I know he has $200.
Well to do.
You know what I mean? Like, if your friend was in an emergency,
he's got Yeezys.
Yeah, it's just like so. He's
well to do. Yeah.
You're right. He's bitching. Yeah, he like drives a fucking Porsche, whatever, has a nice house, I'm sure.
What Porsche?
He sends fucking he's like he hits up Brendan like, can you believe fucking George is like blowing me up in the middle of the night when it was like, first of all, it's like 11 p.m. Shut up, it's not the middle of the night. And then was like, and then I'm hearing about it the next day, like from Brendan's like, Brendan, can we believe George like fucking blowing up Jay in the middle of the night? I'm like, yeah, I can believe that because he's a 1-year-old kid who's scared shitless about like not being able to fly. You know, like he's only flown like twice in his life. Like,
he's like he's a little bit different.
He's a small town like Rube like guy, right? Like
young. He's like he'd literally the first time he ever flew was like Brendan flying him out to Texas and putting him up in a suite and all this shit. It was like So after that happened, I went up to George and I was like, hey, George, if you ever need money, text me and I will give it to you, and then never ask for it again. And if you ever need anything else too, you can do the same thing. Like, so I remember, like, not that I need a fucking pat on the back for, like, but it's like, isn't that a normal response to be like, hey, we have like a 21-year-old kid who's never left his hometown here. Like, I'll be looking out for him and not like, like, what are you talking shit about him? Like, behind his back. So from that point on, I was like, bro, like, you're kind of fucking two-faced. And that's why I told his mom, I was like, when she was like, don't say this about, I'm like, hey, just to like give you a heads up, Brendan Schaub doesn't give a shit about George. If you can use him for content and for, oh my God, you're so generous, and like, that's what he'll do. And then a couple weeks after that, she was like, well, I guess you're right. He just got called by fucking Brendan's lawyer to like let him go. Right. And then I emailed Brendan and Brian and said, you couldn't even fucking, I like said, took a screenshot of what they said. And I emailed Brendan and CC Brian just so that Brian would know. I wasn't aiming this at Brian. I was like, just so Brendan knows that Brian saw, and you guys can be like, oh, Brendan, what did you say in response to Mark calling you a pussy on an email? Nothing? Cool. So I was like, I said, you couldn't even fire him yourself? Pussy, like all caps. Like,
so Mark, I do want to dive into something with you here, sir. I just want your take on this because I saw this firsthand, but you're more involved with these people than I am.
Yeah.
So you and Red Bar developed a very interesting relationship with each other. You know, he was shitting on you for
I like Mark Harley.
You know, with his great
some guys can suck, and some guys sometimes they rule. And now Mark Harley.
No, he does like you though. You know he does. It's some deep down in his Jewish body, he does enjoy.
Maybe, yeah. No, I don't have an issue with him. I'm just doing an imitation of him.
You're good, buddy. You're good, man. No, it was very interesting to me though. I saw this clip and I kind of want to talk to you about this real quick. So Red Bar was talking about you, and then he said that Brendan Schwab and that gentleman who's always jacked all the time, who did that shit with the bro science guy. What's his name? He's super huge in your guys' atmosphere. Yeah. He was betting with Brendan Schwab or something like that, and you know what I'm talking about. So, and then Brendan Schwab seems kind of reluctant to pay that money or bet that kind of money at the time. What's your take on that, honestly?
I think
the body language.
Yeah. Oh, and not only body language. So, you know, your question is like, what can we interpret from Brendan being hesitant to bet $10,000 on a fight?
He talks about being a G, making money all the fucking time. And
correct. And like Bradley, for example, like I believe Brad makes a lot of money.
Fuck yeah,
I would assume. To me, I don't think he's that as flashy. Like he has a nice truck and he has a nice house, but like
he makes good money.
I don't think he's like a crazy spender, but like, you know, he's been successful for quite some time now at what he does. And I think he's
got a couple gyms.
Yeah, like I think he's just like his endeavors. I just, you know,
got that clothing company. Yeah, he's probably doing all right.
And he has like, and you know, if he like. His social media engagement too is actually still pretty crazy. Like he has
it's good. Yeah.
Like, if you like compare side by side, like Brendan has like 1 million followers, but it's like he'll post something and he'll get like 300 likes. You know what I mean? So like,
look at Bradley Martin.
Bradley Martin has like 6,000 comments. It's fucking like
he's still cooking. He's still cooking. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was with the Nelk Boys for a minute. And Nelk Boys, you know,
like he's kept himself relevant for like such a long time.
It's insane. But you know what I'm talking about though, right?
Yeah. So I know the bet, in other words, where he's like, let's make it 10. And Brendan's like, okay, you know, I guarantee first of all that you didn't pay the fucking bet. Second of all, I have more inside information on like just how his spending habits and his wife's spending habits match up with what they actually make. And if you were to talk to like a financial planner or somebody who has seen their finances, which I've heard like from the source, like I know somebody who like talked to a person who dealt with Brendan Schaub's finances when he was trying to buy a house like a couple of years ago. Like I know he like recently bought his house for like a mother-in-law, but it was like they had like another one that they were looking at to get, and like when it came time to like apply for the loan, it was like, oh, things aren't looking so, like you don't have, you know, the income to get this mortgage, or you don't have the down payment, or something was like financially you're just more in the red than you need to be in order to qualify for this loan. And then he made some excuse to back out. So I know, like, publicly at the time, he was like, or not even publicly, just like his family was like, oh, well, there's this one thing wrong with the house. I think it's like it, you know, needs to be fixed. I think it's a sign we should just wait for another one. But like, really, he didn't have the money for it. Now, I don't like to talk about other people's money as far as being like rich, broke. I don't give a shit. Like, we're all people, but
yeah, we're all
the reason we're discussing it. Yeah, the reason we're discussing it, and I don't think I'm that materialistic. Like, you guys don't seem like you're fucking obsessed with, you know,
you make what you make, bro.
Yeah. But the reason we're discussing this is because Brendan, his persona is that of like, well, you can say what you want about my comedy, but I drive a Ferrari. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, dude, you put yourself out like that. Like, fuck you. Like, come on,
I'm better than you because I make money. So that's, if you lead with that, and then people find out that it's
false,
not really matching reality, then people are gonna be, wait a second, you said you're, you know, like, exactly. You say you're rich, but you're firing this guy that you pay $1,000 a month, you know, like, or you say you're rich, but you can't, you know, buy a shitty starter home for your mother-in-law, and you say, you know, like, there's a lot of what he does is a house of cards to me. Like,
there's a couple things too, like the Cast Media thing was a huge blow up. And then there's something that came out that he might have got. That was the company that Chow basically, he was pretty high up there, and that's where they filmed all the podcasts.
Yeah.
And
it's like the podcast one specifically, their job, because he used to be with Malka, which is a production company. What Podcast One does was sell the advertising. So they're like the middleman to get like the ad reads. So like, there are the people who go out and they guarantee you this much money for whatever, but that was essentially like a pyramid scheme. You know what I mean? Like,
shit. Okay. Yeah.
And I remember him having this conversation with Theo like a year before all that shit hit the fan. And like, I remember like he puts people on speakerphone at weird moments, but I'm like, I'll be with him. And it's like, you can have this private convo. I'll like tune out. Like, you don't need it. But he like wanted me to hear it for some reason. And Theo was basically like, bro, like the money's fucked up. Like, this money's not coming in from what we're supposed to be paid, you know? And I remember because Theo Von referred to it as monies. He's like, which is like maybe a more Southern thing where he's like, you know, the monies, the certain monies aren't being paid, you know, which is a funny little, you know, colloquialism. But I remember he kept referring to things like certain monies, you know, like certain sums of money are not coming in as they should be. And because he was basically like criticizing Brendan's judgment of the situation, Brendan took it really personally and kind of like got defensive. He's like, oh, Theo's so hard to work with. Like, you know, like I remember him being like salty about the conversation, but like, and maybe you could have, because I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, maybe he is being hypercritical of like, maybe like, who knows? I don't fucking know. But then it turns out like a year later, it's like, no, Theo was right the whole time. He noticed something.
It's a business investment. He wants to make sure he's making his you know, the fuck's going on.
Correct. Well, it blew up into big news.
Correct.
It became a huge thing.
Yes, it did become a huge thing because it was like, that wasn't an isolated incident. You know, everybody was getting their payments months late and it wasn't enough or whatever.
That wrestling podcast guy.
Correct. So I listened to him and he kind of broke down the whole situation, and they were trying to force all these people. They're like, all right, cool. So like, look, we can't pay you everything we owe you, but what we can do is pay like half of it in stock in this new company if you sign this deal. So it's like, almost like you're blackmailing people into being like, fucking, hey, son, you want
like
that money?
Non-disclosure agreement?
What's that?
Like a non-disclosure agreement?
Cast Media got bought by Podcast One.
Right.
Yeah. And then there's some back payments that a bunch of the podcasters were supposedly entitled to.
Okay.
But there was no cash to pay them. So when they did the buyout, they tried to buy the debt owed to the podcasters and issue stock in exchange for the money they owed. Or they tried to come to an agreement.
That's a very good, you know, synopsis of it, basically. Except like, so, and Theo and some other people like this wrestling guy was like, take your fucking stock and shove it up your ass, bitch. I'll see you in court. Brendan because I remember like hearing through the grapevine, and I remember he's like somebody told me they're like, oh, his agency like owes him like, you know, $1 million or whatever. And I thought he meant CAA. And that's what I posted about at the time. But in reality was the sales agent for the podcast owed him all this money. And so he was about to like not be able to pay his employees. So he needed to take that check right now. Whereas like Theo Von's crushing it so hard and has a much smaller operation. Like Theo probably only like employs way less people than Brendan at Thick Boy, and he's
right.
His episode, Shane Gillis did 3 million views on YouTube the other day. Like as a podcast, it's crazy. So he doesn't need the money right away. Brendan did, so he took the deal, but the stock immediately plunges from like if it starts at $8 a share, it's down to like probably 4 or 3.
And that was the thing. It sounded like Shab jumped on it early and ended up getting a decent deal, but who knows, because you got the shares, but then I think you might have gotten a little cash too. Because I saw a whole documentary about it.
Cash, part stock, and part like cash, maybe over like we're gonna give you it in 3 installments over time, and part of it's stock. But like again, the stock was immediately fucked because it,
right. No.
Because of the bad publicity.
Can I ask you something? Because in our little stupid world of the Dabbleverse, these guys get like 1,000 to 5,000 views per video, but there's this whole conspiracy. They all accuse each other of buying views, like these boomers. But and it's like literally like 1,000. They think, oh my gosh, you have 1.2K. Like Shuli has 1.2K, so he must be buying views every day. But how much of these LA podcasts do you think are actually pumping the numbers? I
know for a fact that Brendan did at some point for various podcasts to manipulate the system. So like,
and it makes sense for him to do it because he's getting paid by advertisers. These guys are just doing it for ego to fight with each other.
Correct. And maybe that's not even true. Because again, if you're like, okay, couple of different responses to that. First of all, I know, like I personally bought Instagram followers for Brendan Schaub when upon his request. So I've like been a part of that transaction. So I know he did that in secret and was very worried about it being like, he's like, can you make sure it's under your name? I'm like, oh, shut the fuck up. Like nobody's gonna be like, oh shit, I have a receipt of Brendan Schaub. It's like this Indian bot farm really gives a shit about Brendan Schaub. But he was really scared of going from 1.2 million to 1.1 million followers, which eventually happened because like you can't just keep, when you buy followers, it fucks your algorithm on every social media platform. They're too complex and smart these days to like, that's not a strategy. It scrambles your algo. So I would always be looking at his Instagram like, why are you not reaching any non-followers? Like it'd be like a tiny sliver of non-follower reach. Like his reach was suppressed, but and he was like, I don't know why I'm shadow banned because of COVID talk. I'm like, no, you're not. You bought followers, like, and that's what happens when you try to pump up your shit artificially, it always comes around to the back end. Gringo Papi, he wanted it to hit 1 million views. So he had his, the producer at the time buy like several 100,000 views, which is so
that was obvious right off the bat. Because he was bragging like after a week, like, okay, we made it to 1 million. And it was like,
right.
Yeah.
Because again, you probably would have, it's like you would have hit it anyway. He just like in his mind, he needed to hit it in like 3 months or something to like, and then he took us out to dinner for hitting 1 million views. You like made this
it's not real 1 million, man.
and then acted like it was like this amazing thing that we like needed to be celebrated by taking everyone out to dinner. And again, 1 million views, and like look at the fucking comments, like 1 million views and 20,000 negative comments. So he also, I know, before negotiating with Podcast Ones, this is going way back, maybe closer to when I started working for him, he pumped up a few episodes of like Food Truck Diaries and the Schaub Show with fake views to go like, see, we get this many views to negotiate. Which is a very stupid short-term strategy because guess what? When you do that, not only are you faking it, like, so you're not going to get those views anyway, but then like, it's harder for you to grow organically after you botch it because you're suppressed anyway. That's why everything you watch, all his shows over time, like how many views did TFAK used to get a few years ago? Like 250,000 per episode. The first one that I was on, I remember before he took all my guest appearances down off YouTube. You can still find like clips of them. And I still got the audio. So like he didn't do a complete scrub job, but like I remember looking because I remember my first episode had like 350,000 views.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna take a
last time I checked. Then I'm like, yeah, you could find it in the Wayback Machine, but he took it down. And then like nowadays it's like they average like 50K or less.
Well, that's the thing. If you start buying those like Bangladeshi bot farm views, then when like you're an American and you try to search his page, it like won't show up because it's like the whole algorithm just skews it towards something that's like completely different. So it fucks your channel. So a lot of channels that like when they're like, oh, I'm shadow banned or I'm this, it's just because they bought so many views that like you're just not in the right
because an algorithm means
basket.
Essentially, like, you know, and you know, I remember that actually on TFAK, they're like, what is an algorithm? Like, define an algorithm. And I'm like to like other people, they couldn't. And I'm saying I can, but like what I do know, here's some adjectives you might use about algorithms. Predictive, right?
Yeah.
You know, it uses data of your own preferences and correlates that with similar users who have similar preferences and what they also you know, I don't get the Brendan hate. Yeah, he says dumb stuff, but he's not an awful guy. No, he definitely is an awful guy. That's what people don't realize. He's a narcissistic fucking.
Yeah, I wanted. This guy's my buddy, Clay Dabbler, and I wanted to give a little. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your point about algos, but yeah, no, I wanted to tell Clay. So Brendan's kind of like another version of Stuttering John. This guy's buddies with Stuttering John, but he gets a lot of haters, and there's a whole 100, 200,000. I don't even know what PF Chang's is up to now, but there's a whole subculture, a whole verse, the Papa verse, that's dedicated to basically laughing at him. But Mark Harley here used to be his baddie wrangler. He'd like find chicks for him, and he worked for him, and officially worked for him for a long time. So he has some, like, insight into him.
Not just baddies, but I like it's. You know, that was like one of the things was he would, you know, it'd be 10 p.m. and be asking me fucking any baddies DM, you know. So like
baddies and addies, you got them.
Baddies and addies. Yeah, the thing is, like, it's just like I've gotten to know him, so I can say with confidence, like whether or not it's like, is he a good person? He spends a lot of time trying to project the image that he's a good person, but he's not. He's super controlling. He's an asshole to anyone underneath him. Once you really get to know him, he's a coward in a lot of ways, you know, hence like having his lawyer call George instead of him. He just doesn't deal with confrontation well. He's an addict. He's a womanizer. He
sounds like all like the same things you could say about Stuttering John, basically. But yeah, no, that's the thing.
Brian Callen, how is he? Brian Callen is a much better human who I think has a lot more intelligence, talent, self-awareness, and empathy. So, you know, to put it like, I'm still friends with Brian Callen because he's somebody who I think is capable of reflection and growth as a person, and he just has infinitely more self-awareness than Brendan does. And you know, I think if he didn't need the money, he probably wouldn't do TVAK anymore because, you know, frankly, Brendan treats him like shit.
I mean, you know, you do see that a lot. You know, I mean, look what happened to Brian Callen with fucking what's his face, that fucking tweaker Red Wing guy. What's his name? God damn it, the Canadian.
I don't know.
No. You do know. It's the Canadian guy who's been huge right now. Oh, God damn it, dude. What's that fucking dude's name? Steven Crowder.
Oh,
dude, have you seen what he's been doing to him live?
No.
Like, shitting on him, dude. It's not shitting on him, but like it's very disturbing watching. Brian Callen sell himself for money. That's what's very interesting about like the infrastructure you're in, Mark. It's just like you see people, even though like you say Brian Callen's a great guy. Brian Callen's
been divorced a lot. He's got a lot of increments he owes. I guess.
It's
Callen,
weird.
Right? So
it's weird to me because I'll never be where you were, Mark, where you are going. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful here at all, brother. I'm just trying to say, like, you worked with these tweakers, these fucking disgusting people who are willing to just sell people out for whatever, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm talking about. You witnessed the tops of the podcast mountain.
Yeah.
And you've been there. And like Brian Callen, you say, is a great guy. He's very personable. He might be a great guy to talk to and personable and whatnot. But when you say sell yourself and you sell your what you believe in and how people should talk to you and they disrespect you a certain way just to earn a paycheck.
Yeah.
You can't have that, man. You can never be disrespecting the word.
I agree.
Don't believe that in any aspect, because you can win. And people, and even one of your great mates, Red Bar, talked about this. When you watch Callan talk to a Crowder is obviously trying to shut him down, telling him to shut the fuck up. You're not comedian right now. This is a skit. This has been, pre-practice before. You will be quiet when I tell you. You can be funny when I want you to be funny. And he takes it like a bitch.
Yeah. So
where's the respect there as a man?
I hear where you're coming from completely, because that's where that's the conversation that I had to have with myself with Brendan, where I felt like, hey, you're being disrespectful towards me. And I'm not a man to fucking sit around and say nothing. I'm not gonna now. That's why everything that I said publicly, it's realize I had multiple conversations with him where I was like, hey, that's not cool what you're doing, and you're being disrespectful. And then he'd go like, what do you mean? And I go, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And his response essentially often would amount to, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. Oh. And I'm like, oh my God.
Bro.
Well, you saw that with Shab and Callan too. You saw Shab kind of disrespecting Callan, and
100%. No, someone else. So I think Brian, he must need the money or whatever. But I've seen a little bit of the Crowder disrespect, but also Crowder, I think, is a more similar personality type to Brendan, where we've seen some of those leaked videos where he's berating his wife about taking the car and shit like that. I'm like,
while she's pregnant and saying you're not.
Yeah. So it's clearly this guy's an egomaniac and nuts. Has a sadistic side to him, which I think Brendan does too. It's not as obvious, but I've seen it where it's he really likes putting people down, and I've just never I've never been into that. I've never been Brendan to me is he tells that story about gadooshing his roommate in college through the glass door.
Yeah, that's a classic. I love that one.
And in his mind, that's what you got to realize is in his mind, he's the sympathetic character in that situation.
Well, he spit in his face, right? Or something.
He ate this dude's food. The guy got mad. So he ate more of it because the guy labeled his food. He's like, so your response to if someone's like, don't eat my food, I'm like, all right, yeah, it's your food. But he was so emotional and immature about it that he had to keep escalating this conflict to the point where he's getting into physical altercation with the guy. Shoves him. He was
talking shit to the guy's mom too.
Right.
Remember?
Right. Yeah. He's like,
what?
He spoke his mom.
His mom called him and said, why are you messing with my? And then he told his mom she's a bitch or something.
You're aware.
What?
He doesn't tell it as I was some stupid, crazy kid. He goes, isn't this guy stupid and a douche? It's no, you're stupid and the douche.
You're delusional.
You're a douche him.
Yeah, he good douche him, the douche. But so. That's one thing that characters like that often kind of mix up is no, Brenda did not bang Cat. Expecting that. He would have if he could have, but Cat's really smart is the thing. When you get to talk to her in person, I don't know how much that came across on her time, the TFAT K, but she's just way smarter than Brendan. I swear to God.
She goes, I swear to God. I never saw it, but I swear to God.
Shit,
no, I don't know how. I never really watched too much of the podcast, so I don't know how she came across to listeners. But having had many private conversations with her, I just think she's an infinitely more interesting and complex person than Brendan. You know what I mean?
She just seemed like she was there for the paycheck, chilling. Yeah, she never really said any dumb shit or really and
she doesn't want to be part of the controversy. That's the thing. It's she doesn't want to be associated with it anymore. And she also had to deal with a lot more as far as rape threats and death threats. And if you think the Reddit's bad to me, and I'm kind of more built for that shit, where it's yeah, I'll mix it up with people who talk shit. But what if you're a girl and these that small percentage of the Reddit that's really psycho is going after you? You're gonna get some crazy shit in your DMs.
Can I ask you about Chin? What's Chin like?
Chin was always,
he seems like a hard fucking working dude.
Yeah, I would say he is, and he's put up with a lot of shit from Brendan, and I think I don't know, because sometimes I don't want to attribute cultural things to just personality differences. It's oh, all Mexican people are like this. It's but there is an element of Korean culture that's highly hierarchical.
Right.
And this is covered in if you've read one of Malcolm Gladwell's books, actually talked about how he goes into Yes, yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about, where they go, the Korean language is so hierarchical that there was more plane crashes on these Korean airlines because if the captain was fucking up, the pilot was fucking up, the co-pilot wouldn't say anything because there was like more language barriers to like correcting someone who's higher up on a chain than you. So I'm like, maybe I could be extrapolating too much from that, but Chin's not a guy who's going to push back on Brendan whatsoever, right?
It's crazy because he's so talented too, like him singing and stuff.
It's his culture.
Yeah, you know, he's I give him all the props in the world as far as his singing and shit like that. Like I think but it's funny because Brendan used to complain about him a lot. He's like, fucking Chin won't do anything creative. I'm like, well, tell him like he's not a good leader. He kind of like expects people to like do things that like you're not even giving him a directive, right? So like have that conversation with him. Tell him you want some new ideas. Tell him you want to do this better. Tell him you want to be like, you're just like sitting around expecting people to like read your mind and then being like secretly resentful of them when they don't even know what they've done wrong.
You can't feel about them then at that point. I mean, honestly, if you're not going to say about it, talk about it, then I'm sorry, it doesn't mean that much.
You know, treats a lot of situations like that where it's like, oh my God, like, can you believe it? I'm like, why are you talking to me about it?
Right. Go talk to the guy you actually have an issue with, you know?
Yeah. So
were you still with the when that Tiger Belly stuff went down? Was that before or after you bounced? Or you were in the middle of that, right?
I was very much in the middle of all that, yeah.
Yeah. So that he knows all about that. And I think I don't know if there's anything really.
He just took like
Brendan thought it was all Bobby Lee running like 50,000 sock accounts or something, right? And he made up this stuff about like having a secret
FBI. Like so Brendan literally hired hackers who told him they were going to be able to like infiltrate and take down the subreddit via like computer hacking, right? They gave him some information at some point and basically said like, here's a list of emails from like the tops posting her, like, yeah, it wouldn't like somebody just said Bobby's chick was trolling
Chow.
Like it wouldn't have surprised me if Kalila did have an account and talk some shit, but that still doesn't mean anything. Like in his mind, he goes, Robert Lee at tigerbelly.com as somebody's email, which again, even if it was true, because this could be completely fake information. We don't know any of it. None of it's confirmed, but somebody got in his ear. Somebody convinced him that Bobby Lee had an account that posts on Reddit, and that turned into his mental telephone game was like, Bobby Lee runs the subreddit, therefore I need to like call Bobby Lee out and trick him into having a conversation with me. Like every step of the way along this, he's just like, hey, worst move, and then another worst move you could make would be to do everything. And that's why they ended up on H3H3 talking about how Brendan Schaub like tricked Bobby Lee to get on the phone by being he's like, hey man, some LA Times reporter is like asking about you. They're going to run a profile about you being like a predator or something, like some, you know, like
what?
Like scared Bobby Lee to get on the phone.
Nah, bro, what?
And then Alan like are both like on a conference call, like, what the fuck, man? You fucking better stop posting that shit. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? So it was like legitimately traumatizing for Bobby, and also just like so crazy. And then he still didn't want to talk about it. Like Kalila was like, come on, don't be a fucking pussy, talk about it. He was like, I don't even want to, like, you know. But then he did, and it's like, of course everybody can see that Brendan's insane, and of course it looks terrible. And then of course they could tell he's lying when he's like, well, actually the only reason that I got the, and then he's like, but my team gave me bad information. I'm like, don't say team, because that makes it seem like me. Say that you hired fake hackers, you idiot. Like that's who your team was.
And he wasn't thinking logically, because that was right after he got caught drug walking. You know,
correct. No, those two things are like, those happen to just happen at the same time, where it was like the subreddit and the like Kalila and like Annie Letterman thing, like
drug walk.
They were disconnected, but just overlap, and then like compounded this whole crazy thing that was just like the biggest PR nightmare. Like, I mean, like he was already losing followers and shit like that. Imagine how much his fucking engagement and following, like so people went from being like, you could be on the fence about Brandon, like, whatever. And then you're like, well, you fuck with Bobby Lee? Like, that, I fucking love that guy. Like, so there's a lie. Like, imagine all the Asian people just alone, you know, where it's
right.
You live beyond that race, but like, because Bobby Lee is just way more beloved in the comedy.
He's a great man.
And he had a big podcast and a lot of, he had his niche of fans who are way more like
hardcore,
die hard. Yeah.
Like I've seen Bobby Lee live. He hasn't put out a special, but he's a phenomenal stand-up. So if you're in the stand-up and you've seen Bobby Lee live, you know that he's an absolute killer. And
he thought he could apply pressure, basically Chow.
Correct.
Trick him, like, oh yeah, take back the trug walk, take back, and then like he just wanted it all to go.
That's the thing with ego. People who have ego issues, they're always misevaluating
situations.
Their hand, like they don't realize it's like, do you understand? Like, you think you have the leverage here to do this, but it's gonna backfire spectacularly. And if you had any sense of rational thinking, you'd be able to predict the consequences.
Hang on there, cowboy. I want to ask you something right now.
Yeah.
So you're in the midst of the Brendan Schwab. Okay, so because Mark, you're a very interesting individual. You have a lot going on. I really want to ask you this question. So I always kind of wanted to understand what was your mindset at this point in time. So you freshly, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So you're freshly doing not freshly doing it, but you either got fired or you walked from that environment.
Yeah.
Red Bar reaches out to you and says, "Hey, you want to come on the show? Because I've been covering Brendan Schwab for a minute or whatever."
Yeah.
And he was talking about you at one point in time in his show about being like a lion, with your gray and your hair. He made you seem very sexual some aspect. But anyway, what was your take going on that show and just like explaining what you thought about Brendan Schwab and kind of like what was your mindset going on Red Bar in itself? Because I know who it was because I'm sure talking about behind the scenes. So what was your take going on that show?
What was funny was like I knew that, and first of all, the reason I went on Red Bar is because they asked nicely. I was like, that was it. Like nobody had asked me to like come on the show. Like they were the first people to reach out and be like, hey, would you like to come on? And I'm like, sounds good. Like, let's set a time, but it'd been a few weeks and I was like, I was not really going to say, like, I wanted to have my own statement about it. And so that invitation came maybe a little bit earlier than I would have like wanted to put up my own statement, but I wanted to see a couple things, which was he going to give me the severance pay? It was like, Brendan, there was a few things where he like, owe me money for this, owe me money for that, owe me money for that. And I allowed enough time to pass to be like, he's already reneged on at least a couple of these things, right? Where it's like, I was supposed to get severance pay by the end of the month because you said you'd pay me through this, but you didn't. So I already know you're trying to fuck me over financially. I've already seen you talk shit about why you fired, like lie about why you fired people. Cause technically he fired me, but I like tricked him into doing it by being like, I'm going to not text you back while I'm working at night. And it's going to show you that you get so pissed off by people not responding to you immediately that you'd rather have somebody text you back and not be able to admit that like you got upset over nothing because I told you I was going to deliver something at a certain time and then delivered way earlier and you still fired me. So like it was like my way of being like, see what a fucking retard you are. But like,
yeah, boom. Yeah.
Going on Red Bar was like, I didn't say anything about it. He fired me in a group chat. I kept my mouth shut. I contemplated on it. And
Did you know about that show though?
Yeah.
Of course you knew about Red Bar because Brendan probably knew about it too.
Yeah. Right? Oh, because Red Bar is like the boogeyman of the fucking comedy scene for some reason.
All the podcasters, all the West Coast podcasters. Yeah, of course. He covers every single one of them. Callan, Dalia, Shab. He covered them ad nauseum.
Brendan, you got to realize is like with the subreddit, he deals with this shit because like if somebody's making videos about me, I'd be like, what the fuck? Like I'd look into it and be like, what is he saying? And I'd either be like, it's accurate or it's not, and then go to sleep. You know what I mean? Like, but
if it's not accurate, you don't give a fuck. But if it's accurate, you're like,
right. I'm like, if this guy's just full of shit, then like anybody who asks about it, I'm like, well, yeah, that's not true. So like, I don't really
Red Bar's on that shit, bro.
Right. So I think Red Bar's analysis of a lot of the things that Brendan does is like, yeah, he could definitely nail Brendan as far as like analyzing his behavior or his slip ups or whatever, like any sort of detail. And like the things that I'd seen that he'd said about Brendan, I'm like, it's not like he's lying or exaggerating about Brendan. Like, I think his analysis was pretty correct. I just knew that like Brendan, he wouldn't. It was like oh, like don't say the Candyman, 3 times in the mirror. It's like, why are you guys so scared of this guy? So I had that knowledge going into it, even though and I'd seen, because his clips will pop up online. People have like Red Bar clip channels. So, like, I was aware that he like generally just like roasts like a lot of West Coast comedians. And then I'd seen him talk about me, and then I talked a little shit back, like. But like it never bothered me, because I was like, oh, he just like the first time he mentioned me, he was like doing like oh, this guy's like a bro like thing, and then he like kind of walked. It's like, oh, actually, he's not like that much like that. Like, so I was like, clearly this guy's just like, he's looking for targets, but like he can adjust his own opinion on things at least. You know what I mean? So right. I thought that was interesting. Where I was like, he approached me in a polite way, and I knew that like he would probably try to push it too far, like he did. He's asking if like Brendan touches his kids in an inappropriate way. I'm like,
yeah.
Well, so like I knew that going into it. I knew he was gonna like try to push some buttons and stuff, and he probably didn't get the interview that he wanted out of it. But all I did at that time, you got to remember, I wasn't going on there to like expose him for cheating. I wasn't going on there to talk about Chris D'Elia or Brian Callen. I just wanted to tell about my experience. I kept it very conservative. I just talked about my experience working for Brendan Schaub and what happened, and that's all. And like then Brendan texted me, he's like, you should be proud of yourself. Like that was a text I got from him after going.
Not, bro.
I'm like, oh, I have the whole exchange. Yeah, I was like, bitch, you should be proud of yourself. Like he goes, we were friends. Like you were my friend. I go, you were my friend.
Dude, he sounds so fucking gay, bro. I can't.
Yeah, no, it was the gayest response of all time. And when he said to me, when I said you weren't my friend, what I meant was like, I was trying to be your friend, and you're right. I was your friend. Like I was a friend to you. You were a shitty friend to me.
Yeah, he's
like,
a piece of shit.
You took advantage of me. You exploited my time, my resources, my energy. Like you ran me fucking ragged, working for you 7 days a fucking week,
and he didn't pay you the worth that you're,
Correct. Yeah. So he's like, and then would like, he just like he financially fucked me over in a lot of ways by making promises that didn't come through on, or just like promised a lot and then just didn't deliver, and like just put like I could have been spending that time doing other shit. But in his mind, he's like, oh, because I let him use my studio to shoot a podcast for an hour a fucking week, like Mark owes me the world. Like in his mind, he like invested so much in me. I'm like, you didn't invest anything. You just let me like use your equipment. I could have edited the fucking show myself. Like I could have done the whole thing myself. I could have waited and for the whole workday, turned on the camera and fucking talked for an hour, because I did all the pre-production for my podcast anyway. I came up with all the topics and I outlined everything. So it's like I did an hour-long podcast in one take.
He didn't make shit.
Right. It's like he didn't do anything. Casey edited it. He taught me how to edit, and then I could have fucking done it myself. So but in his mind, it's always like, it's a classic thing where it's like he thinks he's the victim. But anyway, yeah, all I did, I accomplished what I said, was upset him by going on Red Bar, because that was like the worst thing that I could do in his mind.
Well, it's because you're not being quiet. You're not being quiet about what's going on behind the scenes. And with that show, while Red Bar's talking about it, and he spilled a little bit of juice, and he's like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to be quiet and act like every other fucking simple who stays quiet. But you know what, Mark? You have a fucking brain. You're a person who has some, you can laugh all you want, buddy, but you're honestly a great individual, and you're not going to be told no. And you're also not going to be told to be a fucking idiot and just wait in the sidelines. That's not you, bro. You're a fucking go-getter. Like
I want to ask on that note of Red Bar. I tuned in to. I was trying to watch some of the Lossless interview.
Yeah,
but it was really long. So did you have a falling out with Red Bar after that first interview?
No.
You guys are still cool.
Yeah,
that was a one. Okay,
he interviewed him again.
No, he didn't interview.
No, he had you back on the show and shit. I saw that.
Oh, he mentioned me on the show. I
thought you came back on. You didn't?
No, I didn't come back on. But what, like, I talk with whoever I maybe assume Jules runs the Instagram channel, but like, I'm like, I did my little impression of Red Bar. I don't have a fucking problem with Red Bar.
I didn't know.
They're all coming for
some reason I thought that you had gone. I didn't. I remember seeing the first time, and you were very fair to Brendan on it. And to be honest, Red Bar, he kind of poked at Brendan a little bit, but he was pretty light on Brendan. He would always go after Callan and Dalia
He
really
talked
hard.
about Brendan's wife being a tranny, bro. That was pretty deep.
No, he talked about his kid having the seizures or whatever. I remember that.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. So, well, here's the other thing. I think for Red Bar, I think Brendan's a little boring for him. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's just like, as a target, it's like there's so many people going after Brendan. It's like, what else is going to say? That's my read on the situation, at least, where I think Red Bar, he's more interested in going after the higher level comedians. You know what I mean? Like, because Brendan is legitimately like, he's a fucking idiot. So
because he would always like clown on the homeless cats and he'd be like, we're not going to steal. He didn't want to steal from the Reddit and all that. Red Bar would always say that. He'd always be like, if you want Brendan Schaub, go over
if you want
Reddit.
a Brendan Schaub fucking show, you can go to like the Reddit and they do a masterful job of that. That's the thing. It's like, and that's why like Jim Renan was able to capitalize on it. He just like took this really popular thing and just like turned the subreddit into like daily video format, basically, by stealing everyone's comments.
So Mark, you're freshly left, and/or I'm not gonna say you're fired because I don't seem like you're the type that gets fired. It comes from
doing more work earlier.
Yeah, it comes from creative differences, honestly, with you in my mind, because you seem like
it was from being slightly defiant towards an egomaniac. That's like
exactly like you seem like actually a hard earnest person who works his ass off. So I'm not going to say you got fired for being a lazy motherfucker.
Yeah,
no cap. But so you come under your own mindset. You know what? I need to do my own fucking thing. I actually want to start my own fucking like vibe, my own persona on the internet. You find your buddy. How did you find him? And how did you start with the creation of your Instagram reels that you're doing right now? How did you start that, man?
Well, I've been doing that concurrently. It's just like because I met him through Zoo and we'd been doing these skits for a while. It's just that like when I started working for Brendan 24/7, it was kind of hard to shoot with him because
of course,
I had to work around these hours. And I remember like Isaiah will tell you, like, there'd be times when I'd be shooting something and it's like, why am I fucking getting like, I'm like getting in like text fights with Brendan about like stupid shit, like after work hours. I'm like, bro, I already fucking put in a work day and you're still bugging me as I'm trying to do this other shit. And it also like, in order to make like comedic skits, if you're in a shitty mood, it really sucks. You know what I mean? It's like, like you're improvising because we're not even working from a script most of the time. We're just like coming up with premises and beating it out. And like, so you have to be like in the moment. And
quick on it in the moment. Yeah.
Yes. And like, if you're in a bad mood, who wants to do improv comedy when you're like angry?
No, it's not going to work.
So since leaving there, I was like, Isaiah's just been so much more fun to collaborate with because he listens to me and respects like my experience in this arena, and it's just a way more positive, productive, and fruitful process as far as creating stuff that we both think is funny. And like, he's built something pretty incredible with, he's got over 3 million YouTube followers, for example. It's like so, and a lot of his shorts get huge reach. He took a break from doing long form content for a while, but like he's getting back into it. And just the whole process of it, it's just, he's just a better collaborator because although he is very ambitious, he's
still human,
egotistical. Yeah, he's more of a human. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
I mean,
he is. No, he is. Like he is.
You guys seem like you have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, and for a guy who's like 24, 25, like his emotional maturity is like way above Brendan's. Like, you know what I mean? Like his ability to like navigate conflict or differences is like, way beyond what Brendan's is, and he doesn't need to be surrounded by yes men. So he like, he works ass up. Now Brendan, and because Brendan's a guy, but just by contrast, where it's like he'll always talk about. You ever know these people who like kind of always like, I'm just such a workhorse. I work so hard. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like you talk into a microphone for a few hours a week. Like shut the fuck. Like you don't work that hard. I'm sorry, but like
you don't know what a hard day's work is.
Right. And it's like, and I've heard stories about you actually doing manual labor, that you were like a shitty employee back in the day. And how he's like, there's this, and also like even in the weight room, it's like, yeah, he's pretty strong or whatever. But like Chappelle Lacey worked way harder than him in the weight room. You know what I mean? Like he would disrupt my workouts. I'd work out with him and be like, oh my God, I fucking like, we wasted an hour doing like 3 sets of chest. Like now I have to fucking go back again and work. Like that was, I swear to God, because he'd always been on his phone. He takes forever. He wants to talk. I'm like, bro, I'm all business when I go to the gym. Like I work out on my own and get everything I need to do done.
No, it's cool to work at the gym, but you're new with the boys. You're just get shit done when you get done. I get it.
Yeah, but he was a perpetual time waster for me in the gym. But like,
you talk too much.
You talk too much. He's on his phone. Like, but it's like, bro, like, you know, it's just funny. But again, in his mind, he's like the hardest working person ever. I'm like, no, you're not at all, because I've seen like other people in your field work way. Chappelle works way harder, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Chow, even when he was in the UFC, he didn't have like the best looking body, you know.
No, and he gets like weirdly jealous of people. Like I think that's the only reason he wanted to even hang out with him in the first place, is he thought he was going to get like ripped by osmosis or something. But it's yeah, I can't keep him from fucking binging on Ben and Jerry's at night, so that's not going to work. You know, like I literally laid out like a diet and workout plan for him before I even met him, and he like shit on it on the podcast. I don't know if you guys ever saw that, but
he was always doing fad diets. Like I'm doing
exactly.
This
it's like
now, and I'm doing this.
I'm like, carbs aren't the thing that's making you fat. Drinking alcohol all day and then binge eating because you starve yourself and you tell yourself you're doing carnivore, but then you break it every you know what I mean? Like, don't eat meat all day. Like, I'm carnivore, but then you also eat ice cream at night. Like, that's gonna fuck up your insulin response. Like,
he was saying his whiskey was keto or whatever.
Whiskey keto.
There's a reason he's fat. Yeah, whiskey keto. Whiskey keto.
Mark, you can figure something out about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Mark, since leaving Shab, have you like stayed in touch or followed like the comedy scene at all anymore? You still kind of
I always loved stand-up comedy, and that's like what's funny is like I actually did stand-up comedy before I ever met Brendan. Like people still know me in the Bay Area. They used to like, I remember this guy called me Brock. He's like, you look like so like I could go to like there's guys who are comics in the Bay Area now who know me as Brock.
From Pokemon type shit.
No, just like I just look like they look like a high school like bully or something. Like, oh, it's Brock. But like
that's Brock, bro.
You know, I auditioned for
he's a gym leader.
The remake of In Living Color in 2012, and this is how I got like the casting director who cast me in the show 50 Central was like the casting director who pushed me to be like the white guy on In Living Color in 2012. Like I got the audition by submitting me doing character-based stand-up, like headlining the Purple Onion in like 2012. So it's like
sweet.
Even like Brendan doesn't even know that. So he doesn't know. It's like you think you're some like comedy fucking like because he would try to like big dog me about like you don't know comedy. I'm a professional. I'm like, bro, like 5 years before you even touched a mic, I was killing crowds. Like, you know,
I'm sorry. Did you ever let's just like grab some beers with this guy and just like have a good time, just like hang out as boys? You know what I'm saying? Like hang out with your boys.
No. Like
because it was always high.
Yeah. There has to be some context where it's like
you're below me.
Like, I'm like even if it was like because he'd refer to me in his bit. I don't know if you guys know about this bit that he do where it's like he like referred to me like and made up this whole story about me sending shitty dick pics like in order to set up him. Like it was like and I send amazing dick pics and Mark said it was like it was so weird. It was like this, but like. He in that bit he refers to me as Mark's my security. It's like so anywhere I go, it's like he can't just be like Mark's my boy. It's like Mark's my security or Mark's my trainer or Mark's my this or it's like you're like an object to him. So the idea of like, do you want to just go hang out? It's like he only does that, as you guys said, like under the context of some sort of like he'll hang out with you if he can buy you like it's like let's go out for like breakfast after we lift. I'm the kind of guy I'm like, well, I have food at home. I don't need so like you're inviting me, but now it's like I feel like thank you so much for buying me. It's like, well, I didn't ask for that. Like, but you like it's giving this kind of that's what like a lot of narcissistic people do is like they'd be like, I'm gonna offer you this thing, but then also like say that you owe me because of it. You know what I mean? It's like well,
they hold it over your head, so you have to abide by their rules.
He doesn't hang out with Callan, he doesn't hang out with the lead, he doesn't hang out with Rogan in any context outside of like if you're doing podcasts, you know what I mean? Like, and he oddly framed like an adult man. He doesn't really have like a lot of friends. That's why how I became like close with him was like he didn't really have that. He was like, you're one of my closest friends. I'm like, that's weird because you know like a million people.
No, but hang on. Like, I get it. Like, if you're my close friend, you develop that with working with people in the industry because I do with music. You know, you don't know this, but like I've been in music and whatnot. and I've actually developed some friendships through music. But at the same time, you cannot be a tweaker or a fucking societal loser. The aspect where you think you can just use, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's weird shit, man. You gotta be like, you know what?
Yeah, you can't develop friendships because like long term, everybody sees the same pattern of control, and he's good at fighting it or love bombing or whatever you want to call it at first, but like eventually everyone sees it like he wants to see, if he likes you, he wants to see you every day. He wants to be in control. He finds ways to like have leverage over you.
That's weird shit, bro.
And that's a pattern with literally anyone you ever talk to. Like, if you get close to him, he wants to have a power dynamic that allows him to manipulate you. And I just said, it's not just me. It's like dozens of people that affect you.
What was the power dynamic with AxeJ, and what was AxeJ like?
AxeJ is great. He's really nice. He's like a nice, normal guy. I loved hanging out with him on the road and shit like that. I saw Brendan, like, he'd always complain about him too. He's like, oh, if Brendan wasn't my manager. Hold on, I'm gonna take this phone call. It's my wife. Hey, babe. You need to get cat litter? Okay.
Across
the street? Well, 1 second, guys.
Only on Mir Musk, baby.
That's for the homeless cats out there. Meow, meow. You know.
Meow, meow. Merge, are you watching?
AskJ, I remember a couple times he
about that.
A couple times he like would like blow up at Jay like weirdly. Like I remember the first time I ever went to like a show with them in Austin, like they had like barbecue delivered to the Vulcan gas company because they didn't have like a restaurant there. They're converting this like rock space into like, oh, we're doing live shows. So, like normally you go to like an improv, they have their food menu. So like someone had barbecue delivered. I don't know if it was Jay's decision or not, but like Brendan was like, I fucking told you not to like bring barbecue. It's gonna make us fucking all tired. But like, it's like, whoa, dude, like chill the fuck out. Like,
you ever grab that motherfucker and say, hey, listen to me. Calm the fuck down. You're not fucking what you think you are. Calm the fuck down right now.
Yeah.
You ever do that shit to him, or would that not work?
But like, again, this is like the first time I ever went on the road with him, and I wasn't even working for him yet. So it was just like, it's like, you want to come as a friend. So I'm sitting in the green room. I'm meeting all these comics like David Lucas and Tony Hinchcliffe and like, you know, some bigger guys. And it's kind of like, I'm just, you know, happy to be there.
I'm here for the ride.
Like looking back, because I remember he like actually we're in this room full of people and he texted me. He's like, did you think that was too much with Jay? I'm like, no, like what? Like, but he needed my validation to be like, am I an asshole to my brother? I'm like, I don't know you guys' relationship, but like,
do what?
Like you kind of just
it's your brother.
Barbecue with, you know, like, no, I'm saying like, you're putting me in a position where I have to like validate you.
You're like where am I at right now?
Brother in front of other people. Like, why don't you fix it with him? If you feel bad about it, be like, hey, Jay, could I talk to you? Like, hey,
be a man and talk to your goddamn brother.
Exactly. So to me, in that like pattern happened a few times where he'd like flip out at Jay, and it's like, all right, dude, like relax. You know, like Jay does his job. He does things where he's competent, but like, look, everyone in his life is an issue. It's like always like, oh my God, this person's like, oh my God, my wife, oh my God, this is so annoying, that's so annoying. Like, according to him, it's like everyone in his life is just like a big burden. You know what I mean?
But you know what, Mark? Let's get off of the fucking tweaker vibes over that fucking loser, because you're.
Well, I want to touch on one last thing. That's the most recent news that, you know, someone sent me it today, but basically, I think because of this health issue, I don't know much about it because, like I said, someone just DM'd it to me before, but basically he recently had a daughter and she's having health problems. Yeah. And it sounds like he canceled. Did he cancel a tour or did he cancel all of his podcasts too?
Yeah, his podcast too.
So he's going offline basically for a bit.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
He makes a big deal about like, oh, I've never missed a podcast in 12 years. It's like, that's your job. It's like how many times do you film? 2-3 days a week? Who gives a fuck? Like, you know, like yeah, because he was always bragging like, I've never missed a podcast. It's like, okay, yeah, you limited tour dates though. So like you're bragging about like averaging 3 days of work a week. Like, who gives a fuck?
So is he? Do you think he's going? You think this is done? He's done for a while, or he's done for good?
At least for the week. I don't know. I really don't know.
At least for the week.
Yeah. At least for the week. But like, it's just funny because I was bantering back and forth with this guy earlier about like how, again, like he posts this teary-eyed thing when, if I were him, to be honest, I would just like, I put it in writing. You don't need to show, because like, it's almost like, and I said it because he's so callous towards like other people. Like me. It's like when I was crying, he mocked it publicly. You know what I mean? But when he cries on the camera, we're expected to sympathize with him. But if he saw somebody else crying, like he'd call them a pussy or something like that. So like, if I were him, I'd just look, hey, you're mad. Put it in writing. Let the women cry. And like you can do that shit. I wish you the best, but like he does, it's a different set of rules for him versus other people. You know
it's okay that he cries, but I mean, like, it's behind closed doors though. His daughter has some fucking issues. His newborn daughter. It's just like, why bring that to the national stage of that what you have going on?
I would just say, yeah, because like
what the fuck, dude?
You know, and also like just because before he previously had like, you know, when his wife had a miscarriage, he famously like did Joe Rogan. It's like you see his callousness in other ways. So it's just like, again, I don't have a problem with men crying. I really don't. Like you saw, I showed you me crying in the background of the fucking video after finding my cat because I was emotional. But it's like, I didn't post that online. Also, I wasn't being like, here's the reason I can't do this.
We cry in solace. Yeah.
Yeah. I like, you know, I don't mind crying alone or whatever. It's not, that's not the issue. It's just oftentimes the pattern that you get for Brendan is like sympathy or excuses. Like, oh, well, like, you know, look, like it's probably true that he would have had to cancel the shows anyway because you see how they're selling or whatever. It's like things are trending in the wrong direction for him from a sales and marketing perspective. Because
so you're saying he's using his daughter for you know what, fuck that. I don't want to say that shit because that's fucking garbage for me.
He isn't. I think it's like, well, like the problem is real. I'm just saying that his track record of how he goes about
use that come on, bro.
Is like that he just his rules for himself about how he shares emotions versus how he criticizes others for sharing emotions. He has two different sets of rules. That's all.
Dude, that's fucked.
So I got another question. One more question on Bappa. You were around when Gringo Papi was filmed, right?
Yeah.
Gringo Papi's the second one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, I love that shit, man. I've watched it like 3 or 4 times. I think it's fucking hilarious, like how absurd. Because I like absurd comedy. Like I don't like you know.
Well, you like you're saying that you like it like in the way that people like The Room.
I guess, you know, or I mean, you know, I think like when you watch a lot of stand-up comedy, it all becomes formulaic and it becomes like it all kind of seems the same to me. Once you've seen like 50 specials or 25 specials or something.
So the Gringo Papi is unique.
It's unique, yeah, and it's like I just think he's like how he's animated and like the chocolate, the Mexican cookie and all that shit.
I'm enjoying that. It's like when people act like it's like, you know, like either you're taking that approach and you're like enjoying it on a different level than other people might, but it's like if you don't like something, turn it off. You're not going to make me watch something that I don't want to watch. You know what I mean? So it's like, but you can find humor in the fact that like Steve-O pointed out, it's like you have a cardboard cutout in the background. Like it's almost like everything's wrong with the special. You know what I mean? It's like from the jokes to the cutout to like the weird audio spikes and like your outfit's terrible and you look fat and you didn't shave. It's like you're like blurring your speech, like because he loves to drinks a lot on stage. So it's like people are like, that was 5 takes. I'm like, yeah, but you got to realize like by the second show each night, he's already had like 12 whiskeys. You know what I mean? So it's like he already has a speech.
Cheers, my boy.
He sounded like Mir over there. Yeah.
Yeah. Because somebody fucking clipped out like where he's like, we'd be fucking each other every night or something like that. And the way he says like every day, like he he mispronounces like it's like a gymnast going to like a skip and fucking it up. It's like you're supposed to be a professional speaker and you're fucking up the word night, not you know.
Can you blame him?
Not juxtaposition or you know hyperbole or you know Schadenfreude. You know, it's like you're fucking up it or the like you can't even say the most basic English words properly. So that is again part of the humor and and also just I like to think about the fact that this guy is like. You had like 3 years or more to write and hone a special and like this and over half of the special is on the cutting room floor because he would perform an hour. So you watched less than half of his best material after 3 years, and it's 26 minutes of what people, you know, seemingly in a wide consensus consider the worst comedy special. Like, I don't know. If you're his friend giving you notes, I always think about this because he has this, like, you know, he like went around like asking his for like sending the video file to his friends and being like, you have any notes? And what do you say besides like do it again in a different place, like with different words and a different outfit and you know, better speech? I don't know, like, you know, put it in the garbage. That's the only note you can give.
Yeah, no, I'm happy it exists. I think it's funny as hell. I wish
as a cultural phenomenon. It's like we have the Gringo Papi. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like it's a stand-up comedy special that has generated a lot of comedy.
Right. You know? And that's the thing. Like I would love for him to do another one, but maybe he's hesitant.
I hope so too. I hope he does too, because it's like you want to. Because in a lot of ways, funny to compare the first two ones because it's like the production value of the Gringo Papi is so much lower.
The first one's great too. I mean, with like the worst pain in your life and Dicey. Yeah,
I know, dude. Watch it. I didn't know any of that shit, and then I saw like the Beige Frequency documentary where he like dissects like everything he says in the stand-up special is like a verifiable lie. It's like, are you out of your mind? Like, do you think people won't find out about this shit? Like that Asian doctor that he's like, what's been your life? The guy's like, hi, my name's Steve. I'm the USC doctor. Like he has zero accent, not just a slight. He has zero accent. If you talk to him on the phone, like you never guess like this guy's Asian. You know? Like there's not even a sense of like his Asian parents in his voice. You know,
Asian as shit.
He's Asian as shit. It's like,
Mark, I got a really deep question for you, buddy.
Yeah.
I want to ask you something very deep and very, you know, you probably don't get this a lot as an individual, but I really want to ask you this.
Yeah.
So you witnessed all these people.
Yeah.
In your life. And I'm sure you know, judging, like, here's me judging from what you heard. Your father seemed very enthused in you being, I would say, very, I'm trying to think, like, just supportive of you being. Hang on. Go ahead. What were you saying? Sorry.
I want
to make it quick though.
Confirm your suspicion because I didn't say much about it, but he was. Anything I want to do with entertainment, he was very.
Yeah. I don't want to go towards your father at all. He seems like a great man. He was very supportive of you as being an individual. He pushed you to the limit where you need to be as a man, as a son to him. He wanted to push you and be as supportive as possible, right? As a father.
Mm-hmm.
That's very probably deep to you. Some aspects probably his to you to this day. What your father taught you in life.
Yes.
He probably run with some of it in your life too, because he was a good man. I assume.
Yeah. Yes.
You deal with these scumbags in life, like Brendan Schwab and all these fucking losers and shit, just tweaking out. And you can, and I'm not gonna lie to you, buddy, Mark. You can. I'm gonna be honest with you here.
Yeah.
I look at you. You honestly seem like you're a man of the people. You're a man's man. You're not gonna run with any bullshit. You're gonna be honest with your boys. Like if they said, "Hey, I got this going on," like, you know what, motherfucker, calm the fuck down. You're just being a bitch. I got you. You know, I would call you a friend if we were in like an inner circle and whatnot. And I grew up with you, whatever. You know, if I met you, you seem cool as fuck, dude. You know what, Dr. Chow? I'm just gonna say right now, Mark Harley, right here, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the realest motherfuckers you will meet. No, you can look, dude. You can laugh.
No, I appreciate it. I know I'm laughing.
No, bro.
I appreciate the compliment.
No, I'm not. I mean, I'm giving you a compliment at the same time. Like, you need to understand this, though, dude. There's a lot of broken, fake losers in this world that will manipulate and just break people down and use them until they throw them away. And you don't allow that to happen to yourself. And I'd love to see that from you. You grow up. You know, you don't grow up. You rise beyond that and you just do your own thing. My thing is this, though. When you witness this shit and see all the shit going on around you with like just broken people and what your father raised you in, my take towards you is, at the end of the day, because I know your father passed away, and I'm sorry that happened. That's a very sad aspect. You know, I haven't witnessed that yet in my own life. So I don't want to, but I'm sure it's very hard.
Are you still trying to think of a question?
No. I really want to ask him. I know I'm asking him something right now. Like it means a lot. I'm sorry that happened, man. Like I don't want to know what that feels like.
Yeah,
because I'm sure you and your father were very close in some aspect.
For sure.
If your father, in your own mind, could say anything to you how you've done your life and what you've done with these people who've come and done these things in your life that said these certain horrible things or try to use you, and you've come back at, what do you think your father could say to you right now? Just watching you, maneuver and do these things.
He would be proud of me for basically like what I was raised with from him was this kind of notion of like, you do good and you give of yourself to other people.
Right.
Don't focus on materialism, and you stand up to people who are bullies or who are doing the wrong thing. And I think through this, he would have been proud of me for simply having the audacity to tell the truth about my experience when other people were trying to incentivize me not to. You know what I mean? Because I know he suffered through that himself. It's like he's had times where he's like, man, I wish I would have spoken up about this. And we're like, but my dad was, without you knowing a lot about him, it's like he was the guy when people at his funeral, people were like, you know, you don't know this, but like Rich used to send me, like, he'd find out something about you and he would send out like clippings of like, oh, I found this magazine article that I thought you'd be interested. So he had a bunch of people who were like, came up to me and like, he had this thing that he would like, he was always thinking about others. Right. And so, and he was the least flashy person you've ever met. Like his personality was flashy. He had a really great like broadcaster voice. So he would do the football games and basketball games for my high school. Like he was like the voice of the Carolina Trojans were Charlie.
Right. He's a person within the community.
Yeah. And so it's like, you know, he's volunteering his time, but like, yeah, people loved him in the community because he was like always positive, helping, giving. And like, it just never like, I didn't grow up hearing about like, oh, like, you know, I'm getting this new car or I need new clothes or I need like, the focus was never materialism. Like, of course, like he aspired to work hard and have a nice house for us and blah, blah, blah. And like, and take care of us and put 3 kids through private college. You know what I mean? Like, so like he worked his ass off to provide for us, but this notion of like him looking cool or like, oh, I'm going to drive this car. It's like
non-existent.
It was the opposite of that. Right. So I take that away where it's like, you know, what's important is like, because I can think about him, like, what did you get at his funeral? What did I speak about? What did other people speak about?
What did you speak about?
That he was a good person who was always thinking about other people and giving of himself to other people. And ultimately, like, that's why I will, like, somebody hit me up the other day and they posted about this online and I reposted their story, but he was like, you know, Mark took time out of his day. Like, I just reached out to him about some weight loss and he got on the phone with me for like 40 minutes and we talked. I'm like, I don't do that so people can post a story about it, but it's just like, I believe in this mindset of like, start by giving and it'll probably come back to you. But if it's not, it doesn't need to be transactional. Like, I don't need anything from that guy ever, but it's like, I've just found that generally when you pursue this, like your life with the idea of like, I have some sort of unique gift, I'm going to give as much of that as possible and kind of expect people around me to have that same mindset. Like, then you have a positive environment. And I think as the reason you asked that question is because you go, as opposed to people who lie, people who are materialistic,
cheat,
people who kind of, like try to like the buying the views. It's like you're building this house of cards to appear like you're rich and famous. Like that's the lamest shit in the world to me. You know what I mean? And like, it may sound ironic because I'm like, I'm trying to be an actor, but at the same time, it's like, it's just because I like acting. You know what I mean?
You're not.
Yeah. Like,
well,
and so as opposed to, yes, people who like really have that, he always goes, man, I got a can of Pringles on my shoulder. It's like, yeah, you really do, because you need to like still impress daddy. Like,
well, your father was
loved by my family. Yeah.
Your father supported your art, and that's what's important. He didn't support you fucking trying to like trick people into shit, whatever, as being an art. You know what I'm saying? Like, he believed in your art and he wanted to support that as a father.
any play that I was in, like in college when I started getting in these plays, like he'd drive down from San Francisco to Los Angeles to watch. So like I always just felt like he made me feel like I was enough with regards to like being entertainment. So I don't have this like, and I know different people are driven by different things, but I don't have this like chip on my shoulder where I'm like, oh, fucking show them. I'll show them I'm good enough. I'll show that teacher or that parent or that critic or whatever. I'm like, no, I'm just doing, I do stuff that I like. But when you see people who are driven by that kind of like jealousy or envy or like revenge or like, it's a weird thing that can fuel you, but it's like a miserable existence to be fueled by that. You know what I mean?
Well, Mark, I want to say, I can say from firsthand experience, I had to hit you up well over a year ago, and I was kind of poking at you a little bit, and I was just an anonymous guy on IG, and then we ended up kind of going back and forth, and I was just, you just started talking to me, and you started giving me advice, free advice. You didn't know who I was from anyone, and you were just a cool guy who was just giving of. I was asking you about some weightlifting stuff, and then eventually we started doing our show, and I was like, "Hey, dude, would you be interested?" And of course, we were no one. It was one of our first 5 to 10 episodes, whatever it was, and you're just like, "Yeah, dude, of course I'll do it." And so like, whereas a lot, it's like an 80-20 thing. 80% of people just ignore you. They don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
They don't want to give anything unless they can get something back in return. And you are just like a guy who is, and not like. You're just down to earth dude, Yeah.
So, and I think that like, again, not that like I'm advocating for people to be like, but I just sense like you guys aren't taking advantage of me. Like I'm saying there are a lot of people paranoid about that. They're like, well, why should I give my time? I'm like, why the fuck not?
Mark, your father's proud of you, bro. You're doing it. No, like for real, bro. Like even though you're 40 and shit, I know it still means a lot as like an individual, I mean, you can laugh.
Mir's like in his early 20s. I'm more like
when I was 26, but of course I think about him every day,
Yeah, like your father's proud of you, bro. You're killing it, man. And it's insane to me. Everyone's laughing at me right now. Maybe I'm young as shit, so I don't know because my dad's not dead yet or some shit. But like, Mark, you've really done a lot with your life so far, and it's honestly like an amazing thing to see. Just like I don't know what to say about it. No one can really explain what you've done so far in their own circumstances or whatnot, because we aren't living what you're living. So we really can't tell you what to say or how we can feel about it.
No, exactly. And I think I agree with that, but and also try to apply it to other people, because anybody you're witnessing, like when we pass judgments, or when I hear a guy like Brendan be like, well, your opinion doesn't matter. It's like, well, you don't know that person. You don't know what they've been through just to survive. You know what I mean? Right. And it also, you don't take anything for granted, and don't act privileged and think that like you're entitled to be, a famous millionaire, because you're not, and all that can be taken away from you in the blink of an eye. And, and I always encourage people to reflect on gratitude. You know what I mean? You know what happy people do? They're grateful for shit. You know what people do? Fixate on everything that's wrong, or some things that, everything they don't have.
And that's the thing, comparison, it's especially in the attention business that is Hollywood and the internet and all that type of stuff. People want to compare, like, well, how many followers you got, how many views you got, how many roles you got, and all that type of stuff. And comparison's the, thief of joy, and gratitude.
Exactly. I wouldn't I wouldn't go on somebody's show. It's like the only litmus test is like, am I going to feel like I regretted the time or had fun with the time? And so if that's a guiding principle for you, you're probably going to end up enjoying more yourself.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Sure.
How old are you, sir?
40.
So why haven't you had children yet with your German lady?
We're planning to soon, hopefully.
How old is she?
She's 35.
Okay, so you're getting there then.
Yeah, it's been a rough go of things, even just getting like financially stable and everything. And, she's been working on her career too a lot. She's made tremendous advancements as a graphic designer, and is killing the game now. So it's just like, we've had a rocky relationship. So it's like, there was times we didn't know we're going to have kids, or you think you're going to break up. It's like, I don't know. It's a very fair question. It's just like, especially when you're in the entertainment industry and living in LA, it's like your timelines are a little bit different sometimes. You know what I mean? So I just, whatever, when you think about having kids, it's like, you just want to do it right, you know?
Yeah.
And
Mir just had his first, so he's in the mode of like,
I'm young.
You gotta have kids. So
yeah. No, I mean, and I both my brothers have 2 children apiece, and, you know, obviously started earlier than I did. But they lead more conventional lives as far as their careers.
Right, yeah.
So,
that's cool, man. That's awesome, man. I'm glad you and Luana were, you know, from that fabled video, even though that was older, you know, all the drama.
Yeah, it was just, it's representative of a time when, like, you know, when that was the lowest point of our relationships and potentially my life. And so that video has kind of become an icon for that moment. But, you know, yes, there's been a lot of work and a lot of growth and a lot of progress since then. And who knows what the future holds, but we're both optimistic. So,
Mark,
that's awesome.
Mark, are we done with the interview here, Dr. Chow?
Yeah, I think we could wrap it up. I mean, I'm trying to think of anything else we could touch on, but let's talk about your future. You got anything you want to, like, you're promoting, or you're going to release coming up, or anything we should look out for?
I mean, I'm you know, we're doing more long form sketches, so I'm going to be posting those to my YouTube. Follow me at Hello Mark Harley. I have a few different podcasts in the works.
Good.
One with my wife, one with Isaiah, and a solo project that I hope to be starting to release, you know, this year as soon as possible.
How are the cats doing?
The cats are all doing great. 4 of them. They're all healthy and happy.
I remember Crip Mac was into the cats when you had them.
You gotta get them on one, bro. You gotta get them on one. Come on, man. You gotta get them on one.
You want to get a cat?
Yeah, let's see one of those homeless cats.
This is actually the one who went missing. This is the male Spider. Hello, this is the big boy.
Hey, buddy.
Did you go missing? Did you run away for 8 whole days?
Oh, that's a nice cat.
What a bad boy. What a bad boy.
Oh, he's a good
Beautiful.
boy. He's a good boy. He's a good boy. Mark, it was an honor having you, sir. Honestly, I just want to say it right now. You're a great man. I really just want to say you're a great persona. You're a great individual. Your father would be proud of you. Hey, you don't even hear that because you're 40 years old, so I don't give a fuck about that. Whatever.
No, I appreciate it.
No, like, for real, I'm just being honest. Like, I'd be proud of you as a father if you were my son.
I appreciate it. Again,
no, for real, bro. Like, I'm not kidding, man. Like, you're actually a good person, and it's just it sucks. Call him King. Hey, King. No, bro. Like, for real. We do these shows and we meet certain people who are either broken or, you know, disgruntled with their lives, or they're just fucking they're just discontent with what's going on, you know, presently with themselves. And I just want to say for the record, you see, this guy is a gem. It's a tiger. This is a small tiger, but you're a king, bro. You're a good man, and I really next time we meet, or next time we have you on, or whenever wherever we meet in person again or whatever, I really hope the best for you, and I really hope the best for you and your wife. I just hope for the best with any future endeavors you have, sir. For real, I really do wish that on you. I really appreciate you as an individual. Thank you, sir.
I feel that, and I know you meant it, and I also wish the same for you guys, and I appreciate you having me back on.
Likewise, dude.
Such good questions.
Yeah, man, and I know it's your second appearance. We'll do it again sometime down the road when we're both got new stories to tell. So, and you guys, anyone who's watching, go check out Mark Harley's Instagram. Buffest man.
He's at Hello Mark Harley on all platforms. So
Hello Mark Harley on all platforms. So awesome, Mir. Until next time,
Mark. Peace, brother.
Peace out, man. Take care.
Peace, guys.
Sweet.